Chapter 442. This time, the purpose of their visit to the ghost city was to buy medicinal herbs, not to make a scene. If the fat rabbit is put into the beast-fighting coliseum, then perhaps Wang Jiang's ghost city will follow in the footsteps of Xia An's ghost city, and be turned upside down. After Su Fu leaves, Mu Yan waits in the private room for an hour. However, Su Fu had yet to return, and not a single herb had been delivered. Mu Yan's patience is somewhat exhausted. Even if it took time to prepare the herbs, it was impossible for there to be no news in 2 hours. Ru Yan understood her master's intention and immediately left to inquire about the news. After he came back, his expression was exceptionally ugly. "Miss, that Magistrate Su wants to go back on his word and is unwilling to sell the medicinal ingredients to us." Mu Yan frowns. Without waiting for her to speak, Han Yi already says in disbelief, refusing to sell the herbs to Miss June. Has the ghost city eaten the guts of a leopard? I think they don't want to stay in the ghost city anymore. What kind of joke was this? He even dares to offend the mistress of the ghost city. Were they tired of living? Han Yi looks at Di Mingju's complexion. Although there's no change in his expression, his eyes are already suffused with layers of cold light. In his heart, Han Yi observed a moment of silence for that guy, Ghost Emperor Gu Yu. If he didn't manage his subordinates well, this guy would definitely die a horrible death. Mu Yan slightly narrowed her eyes and said, "Why are you suddenly unwilling to sell medicinal herbs?" It's said that a distinguished guest has come and asked for a lot of rare medicinal herbs. Quite a few of them coincide with what Miss wants. Magistrate Su said that it must be given to that distinguished guest first. I can only inconvenience Miss to wait for a few days. Ru Yan is also extremely unhappy. The ghost city has always been known for its fairness and trustworthiness. It's clearly a promise, but he doesn't fulfill it. Isn't this damaging the reputation of the ghost city? What's more, Mu Yan is holding the Shinshu token. Her authority is equivalent to that of the King of Hell. It stands to reason that no matter who the guests are, Mayan should be the one to pick first. Han Yi slaps the table and says, "Hee, Miss June, let's go out and meet them right now. Let's see what kind of distinguished guest actually dares to snatch your things." Another private room in the Phantom City is currently surrounded by magistrates and ghost envoys. In the middle of these people sat a woman in a pink dress with her face covered. All the people surrounding the woman had a flattering expression on their faces and spoke in a fawning tone. Including Su Fu, who was just currying favor with Mayan. "Shi Xianzi, I didn't expect that you would grace my Wangjiang's ghost city with your presence. It's truly our ghost city's fortune, Wangjiang's fortune." Chapter 443. Rui Zhu proudly said, "This is the third-grade foundation strengthening elixir that our Miss has just refined. It has a miraculous effect on the stability and advancement of cultivation. This is your reward." "Thank you, Shi Xianzi, thank you, Shi Xianzi." Su Fu received it ecstatically. At the same time, he received envious looks from the others. He rejoiced in his heart. Just now, when he was busy preparing the herbs for June Mayan, Shi Lonling suddenly came and also asked for a large number of rare herbs. Su Fu knew this Shi Xianzi. His alchemy ability was on par with the Tiandao sect's Grandmaster Jian Feng. If he managed to curry favor with him, he would be able to obtain an alchemy pill. He might be able to break through the bottleneck that he had been stuck in for a long time. Of course, what Su Fu wants even more is the famous filter of barrier breaking in the ghost city. There were now 2 kinds of filters of barrier breaking. One was aimed at those below heaven stage. In the ghost city's auction house, it had already been hyped to the sky-high price of 10 million gold coins. However, the people outside almost don't know that there's another kind of pre-celestial filter of barrier breaking in the ghost city. It was only targeted at heaven rank and above, or even innate rankers. The supply of the filter of barrier breaking was already very low. As for the pre-celestial filter of barrier breaking, there are only 2 bottles in the entire Ghost City. One of the bottles was exchanged by a lucky magistrate in Wangjiang City with his merits. He actually broke through from the peak of heaven rank to innate rank on the spot. Such a result simply made the entire Ghost City go crazy. Su Fu had been stuck at Xiantian low level for a very, very long time. If he still couldn't break through, his position among the judges would become unstable. Even in his dreams, he wanted a bottle of pre-celestial filter of barrier breaking. But, after the magic of the pre-celestial filter of barrier breaking was known by everyone, how could it be his turn? Therefore, when Su Fu learned of Shi Lanling's arrival today, he was extremely excited. Thus, he decisively chose to offend the newly promoted Shinshu and ran over to curry favor with Shi. Even if he did not have the pre-celestial filter of barrier breaking, if he could obtain the pills refined by Shi, there was a very high possibility that he would break through to the middle stage of pre-celestial. Now, it seemed that he had made the right bet. The envious and jealous expressions of the people around him made Su Fu even more complacent. At this moment, there was a sudden bang at the door. "Where's Su Fu? Ask him to come out. Tell me, why didn't you give me the medicinal ingredients that you promised my miss?" Hee, don't tell me that everyone in the Ghost City are shameless people who go back on their words. How can you go back on your word? Su Fu's expression immediately changed. Everyone's eyes fell on his face. Shi Lanling also frowned slightly. Ruizhu asked directly, "Magistrate Su, what's going on? The management of the Ghost City is already so lax now. Can people casually come and make trouble where my family's miss is?" Su Fu wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and stammered for a long time. In the end, he still couldn't bear it any longer and said, reporting to Shi, "The matter is actually like this. In fact, the herbs that you wanted were originally prepared for our Ghost City's new Shinshu. Shinshu? Shi Lanling is flabbergasted. I remember that there hasn't been a Shinshu in the Ghost City for 300 years, right? Ruizhu bluntly said, "What Shinshu? Could he be a swindler using the name of Shinshu to swindle people? What's more, so what if it's Shintu? Could he be more noble than my young miss? Could it be that you have the guts to snatch something from my young miss?" Chapter 444. Wait a minute. Shi Lanling suddenly opens her mouth. "I'd like to see who this so-called Shinshu is. Have someone invite them in." Su Fu's face stiffens, and he can only bow and comply. After a while, Mayan's entourage comes in. Shi Lanling's gaze falls on Di Mingju for the first time. Her eyes first pause, then reveal a look full of infatuation. Even if Di Mingju converges his breath in the Ghost City, people wouldn't notice him at first glance. Shi Lanling, on the other hand, only saw this handsome, powerful, and deeply infatuated man at the first moment. She can't even stop herself from wanting to throw herself into his arms, and tell him how much she misses him. Shi Lanling, has never loved a man to this extent since she was a child. However, at this time, her line of sight shifts. Beside the man, the young girl's charming face is reflected in her eyes. "Yes. You." Shi Lanling grits her teeth and growls. "Jun Mayan, this slut. She actually dares to appear in front of her." Shi Lanling's hand can't help but stroke her face, her chest uncontrollably heaving up and down. It's this slut Jun Mayan who poisoned her with white jade purple frost, causing her to end up in this state. These days, she has tried all kinds of methods to cure the poison of white jade purple frost in her body. But there's nothing she can do. Her cultivation is regressing little by little. If this goes on, she's afraid that she won't even be able to maintain Heaven stage. Helpless, Lonling can only use another kind of elixir with poison, fighting poison with poison, to suppress the toxicity of the white jade purple frost. Who would have thought that after one night, the toxicity of the white jade purple frost would actually surface on the surface of her skin? It causes dense white spots to grow on her face and body. Lonling looks at herself in the mirror like a devil, and angrily smashes everything in the room. In her fear and resentment, Lonling flips through a lot of medical books to find a dan to eliminate the white spots. However, it requires a lot of rare herbs, so she comes to the ghost city. She didn't expect to run into this slut June Mayan here. Unfortunately, when she was disfigured, June Mayan became even more beautiful than before, and even more high-spirited. How could she not hate this? She really wants to tear June Mayan's body to pieces. Sir Shen too, Su Fu wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and respectfully said, "Didn't I already send word to you? The medicinal herbs that you need can't be gathered in the ghost city in a few days. Why don't you wait for a few more days?" Mayan raises her brows and looks at Lonling. "I didn't expect it to be an old acquaintance." "Shi Shenzi, I trust you have been well since we last met." Lonling clenched her teeth, almost unable to control her twisted expression. Mu Yan doesn't care about her, but looks at Su Fu. "Magistrate Su, you just told me that 80% of the medicine ghost city has it. Why are you going back on your words now?" Su Fu wipes his sweat and smiles hollowly. This. I made a mistake just now. The ghost city is actually already out of stock for these herbs. Our young mistress wants these medicinal herbs." Rui Zhu sneers and looks at Mayan with disdain. "Moreover, for the next few days, our family's miss will buy all the relevant herbs. Miss June, if you want it, you can buy it elsewhere." Chapter 445. Magistrate Su. Mayan looks at the sweating Su Fu next to her. "Giving my medicine to others. Is it you, Su Fu, going back on your word, or is it that the treatment promised by Ghost City to Shinshu is fake?" This. Su Fu's whole body is like an ant on a hot pan. He wants to curry favor with Lonling, but he also doesn't want to offend the newly promoted Shinchudaran. Especially when the other people in Ghost City cast their understanding and contemptuous gazes, it makes her feel like she's sitting on pins and needles. Lonling, on the other hand, burst into laughter. "Shintu. Ghost City hasn't had a Shinshu for 300 years. I don't know if this sudden appearance is real or fake. If someone used a fake Shinshu token to swindle away so many herbs from Ghost City, who would be able to bear such a crime?" "That's right." Rui Zhu echoes, "Ghost City Shinshu, which one of them isn't a person of virtue and prestige, comparable to the King of Hell? A girl who's not even 20 years old, and doesn't know alchemy, yet she could get the Shinshu token of Ghost City, who would believe it?" As soon as these words come out, everyone looks at Mayan with a bit of suspicion in their eyes. It's really that Mayan is too young. Her skin is whiter than snow, and her features are picturesque. If she wasn't holding Xiao Bao by her side, she would look like a beautiful but fragile little girl. How could she get the Shinshu token? A smile finally appears on Lanling's face. She slowly gets up from her seat and walks in front of Mayan. Her voice is gentle, but with a trace of lofty contempt. "Miss June, you should know that many of these rare herbs can only play a role in alchemy. You don't know alchemy at all. Taking these herbs back would just be a reckless waste of God's gifts. Why bother? Or is it to say?" She suddenly pauses, glancing at Di Mingju on the side. "Or is it because I said in front of Di June that you can't do alchemy, so you feel unreconciled in your heart, and also want to try alchemy?" Looking at the girl's expressionless face across from her, Lonling only thinks that she really has such a purpose, and her heart feels unspeakably carefree. Then she can't help but burst out laughing. Did I really hit the nail on the head? Miss June, I know that you are talented in concocting medicine. However, drafts and elixirs, even though they are both medicines, there's a world of difference between them. The value of drafts is also far from being comparable to elixirs. Don't tell me that you think that you can refine drafts by yourself, and then just pick up some herbs and casually study them, and you'll be able to learn alchemy. You're too naive. Ruizhu quickly walks to Shi Lanling's side, supporting her, her face full of arrogance and disdain. Miss June, you should know that in the entire Yanwu continent, there are no more than 5 people who can perform alchemy. Someone as young and as famous as our family's miss is even rarer. Only the Heavenly Road sect's Master Jian Feng can be mentioned in the same breath. You want to learn alchemy immediately? Huh, are you kidding me? The surrounding people also smiled and shook their heads. Yes. How could alchemy be such an easy task? In the Ghost City, there are actually quite a few people who have medical skills and can refine drafts. However, apart from Shi Lanling, there was no one else who could refine pills. This is the reason why Shi Lanling's status in the Ghost City is so high. In the entire Yanwu continent, alchemy methods and Dan recipes are spread everywhere. Chapter 446. Don't forget, if it's an elixir refined by our miss, a part of it will be consigned for sale in the Ghost City. Su Fu snapped out of his daze and bowed to Shi Lanling in a flattering manner. When he turns around to face Mayan, his face no longer has that careful, nervous, and fawning look from a moment ago. Miss, I've already told you about the matter regarding the medicinal herbs. Regardless of whether this Shintu token is real or not, I think it would be best for you to not cause trouble and leave now. Ru Yen trembled. You've just checked the Shintu token. Whether it's real or fake, can't you recognize it? This token was personally given to Miss June by the King of Hell of Xia and City. I was also present at the time. On what basis do you say that Miss Shinshu's identity is fake? So what if it's true? Su Fu sneered, his face full of disdain. At this moment, he might as well give up. In any case, he has already offended June Mayan. Whether June Mayan is Shintu or not, she won't give him any face. In that case, he might as well hug Shi Lanling's thigh tightly. When the time comes, the benefits he would obtain would be innumerable. Just now, Shi Shenzi also said that these medicinal herbs are mainly used to refine pills. You, a person who doesn't know how to refine pills, what can you do by taking away these medicinal herbs? Don't tell me they can be like Shi Shenzi, and put them in our Ghost City for consignment sale. The more Su Fu talks, the more excited he gets. Do you know what price Shi Shenzi can sell the pills that she sends to our Ghost City every time, and how much profit she can bring to our Ghost City? Let alone the fact that this Shinshu of yours is fake, even if it's real, can your status and identity be mentioned in the same breath as Shi Shenzi? What right do you have to fight with her? Magistrate Su, your words are too much. A woman who looked to be in her 40s heard this and finally couldn't help but step forward and say, treating Shintu as an honored guest is an order from the Ghost King. If Miss June really is Shintu, then she should have the priority to purchase the herbs, even if she wanted to take the herbs away for free, that is also fine. You go back on your word and deceive Shinshu. Do you take our Ghost City's rules as a child's play? Su Fu's eyes flickered when he heard that. He seemed to be a little flustered. But soon, he remembers the recent rumors about Jingqing Country's Ghost City. He heard that Jingqing Country's King of Hell is the strongest among the 3 kings of Hell, even approaching the Ghost King. Furthermore, their King Yanluo was not on good terms with the Ghost Emperor. Maybe Jingqing Country's Ghost City will break away from the Ghost King and cooperate with Jingqing Country's royal family. At that time, what Ghost King's orders? What Shinshu? What Ghost King? Chapter 447. Some people agree with Su Fu, believing that only by befriending Shirshinzi can the ghost city obtain the greatest benefits, and such people make up the vast majority of the magistrates. Only a few people stood beside the middle-aged woman, Magistrate Qin, thinking that Ghost King's orders were everything. How could they disobey? Seeing how stubborn they are, Su Fu can't help but frown, his expression cold and stern. Judge Qin, everything I'm doing is for the good of the ghost city. If you're so thick-headed, you won't have a good end when I report this to the King of Hell. Shilonling also looked at the middle-aged woman, snorted, and arrogantly said, Rui Zhu, in the future, you are not allowed to sell the pills I refine to these people. Rui Zhu smiled and said, Rest assured, Mississippi. Since these people don't know what's good for them, let alone Mrs. Medicinal pills in the future, I'm afraid they won't be able to buy any medicinal pills anymore. They only have themselves to blame. Hearing this, Su Fu felt an indescribable joy in his heart. Some of the people behind Judge Qin hesitated. 2 of them couldn't withstand the pressure and walked behind Su Fu. He then advised, Judge Qin, why do you have to be so stubborn for a girl you've never met? Besides, we didn't do anything to her. It's just that the medicinal ingredients are what Shirshinzi wants, so we'll give them to her first. That's right, this is the best decision for our ghost city. Why do you have to go against everyone for a Shinshu whose authenticity we don't know? The middle-aged woman stiffens her neck, not letting Su Fu give the herbs to Shilonling. I'm not going against you. I only know that in the ghost city, the ghost king's order is everything. You disobeyed the ghost lord's order, you're not worthy to stay in the ghost city. Ha, Qin Xiangyu, since you don't know what's good for you, don't blame us for being impolite. Su Fu coldly said, Magistrate Qin colluded with outsiders and harmed the ghost city's interests. Lock her up first and wait for the King of Hell to come back and punish her. Clang, clang, clang. Both sides unsheathed their weapons at the same time. On the other hand, Judge Qin's side was clearly at a disadvantage. Mu Yan looks at the 2 distinct factions and slightly narrows her eyes. It's as if he can see the undercurrent surging in Wangjiang's ghost city. She suddenly remembers that in her past life, Jingqing country's ghost city seemed to have fallen into Gong Qinshue's hands in the end. What about now? Has Gong Qinshue's hand already inserted into Wangjiang's ghost city? The 2 sides were in a deadlock. Old Tao suddenly ran over, beaming with joy. After seeing Mayan, he immediately bows and salutes, Miss, it turns out that you're here. It took me a while to find you. The commission for the consignment sale of the new batch of drafts has already been discussed. Wangjiang's ghost city is willing to lower the original price by another 10%, we're just waiting for your confirmation and signature. Mr. Liu is waiting for you in the original private room. When Old Tao talked about this, his eyebrows danced and he was in high spirits. Mayan's drafts are all consigned for sale in the ghost city. Originally, the ghost city only charges 20% as a fee. Such a price is the lowest in the entire ghost city. But now, in order to be on good terms with them, Wangjiang's ghost city has lowered the processing fee to 10%. The construction of the Heavenly Secret Unit and the Ink Camp is in need of money, right? How could Old Town not be happy to earn a little more? Of course, the most important thing isn't that Old Tao is on good terms with them. Rather, the drafts that Mayan can take out, which one of them isn't priceless, and can't be snatched away. Chapter 450. He immediately decides to let Wangjiang's ghost city buy it all. Before the price is settled, Old Liu is holding that pre-celestial filter of barrier breaking like a golden treasure, reluctant to let go for a moment. Old Tao has just finished speaking with a beaming smile, when he finds that the surrounding atmosphere is somewhat stagnant. He scratches his head, somewhat confused. Miss, what's wrong? Didn't you say you wanted to buy herbs? Have you bought them now? Mu Yan has a smile that isn't a smile, about to speak. She sees a white-bearded old man rushing over. He's holding a document in one hand, and a porcelain bottle in the other. He looks down from time to time as he runs, as if he's afraid that the treasure in his hand might knock or bump. You must be Miss June. It's an honor to meet you at last. As soon as he sees Mu Yan next to Old Tao, he immediately rushes over in 2 or 3 steps. He doesn't care that he's old enough to be Mu Yan's grandfather, and deeply bows. I didn't expect the famous godly apothecary to be so young. Oh, this old man is also an apothecary, but seeing the drafts that you've refined, I'm completely ashamed of my inferiority. Miss June, this old man has brought the contract for the consignment sale of the drafts this time. Do you think we should sign it immediately? If you have any other requests, our Wangjiang's Ghost City will do our best to satisfy you. As he says that, he eagerly hands over the contract. His other hand is still firmly grasping that porcelain bottle, pressing it against his chest, as if he's afraid that someone else will snatch it away. Mu Yan's mouth holds back a smile, and she carelessly glances at the contract, but she doesn't take it. Instead, she slowly says, "There's no need. I think our contract should be annulled." Magistrate Liu stares blankly. Annulled. What do you mean? It means that I'm not going to consign the special drafts in Wangjiang's Ghost City. Magistrate Liu blinks, and blinks again. It seems like he only realizes what Mu Yan said after a long while. Miss June, what are you talking about? Magistrate Liu is so anxious that he can't speak fluently, and he almost drops the precious porcelain bottle in his hand. Miss June, please don't joke around. Didn't we already agree? Is the consignment fee too expensive? We can reduce it to 5%. No, it's fine even if we don't accept it. Mu Yan shows a languid smile and looks at him. She stretches out her hand. Before Magistrate Liu could react, the porcelain bottle that he was holding like a treasure in his hand has already disappeared into Mu Yan's hand. If I remember correctly, what is in this bottle should be the pre-celestial filter of barrier breaking that I refined. Since you're not going to sell it in Wangjiang's Ghost City, shouldn't you return it to me? As she spoke, she threw it to Feng Haitang as if she was throwing trash. Ow, 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 ow. Magistrate Liu was so distressed that he wished he could immediately burst into tears. His innate filter of barrier breaking, his precious golden lump. Miss June, what happened to you? Just tell me if you have any requests. I'll promise you anything, okay? He really wanted to kneel down to this ancestor. A godly draft that's delivered to their doorstep with great difficulty. The innate filter of barrier breaking had finally fallen into his hands. In the past, these godly drafts could only be easily obtained in Xia An's Ghost City. Today, this divine rank alchemist actually delivered himself to his doorstep. He was simply about to go mad with joy. Chapter 451. Magistrate Liu's old face wants to cry. His empty hands are itching to pull out his white beard. Miss June, you're the Shinshu of the entire Ghost City. How can you be biased and only manage Xia An's Ghost City? Our Wangjiang's Ghost City's reverence for you is like an endless torrential river. If crying, making a fuss, and hanging oneself can make this ancestor change her mind, Magistrate Liu can absolutely do it now. Oh, speaking of this. Mu Yan takes out the Shinshu token from her bosom, and casually throws it at Magistrate Liu, her face full of ridicule. I thought that the Ghost City Shinshu would have the highest priority treatment. I didn't expect it to be nothing more than scrap metal. I can't even buy some drafts if I want to. Since it's so useless, I don't want this nuisance of a Shinshu. Saying that, she glances at Su Fu on the side. By the way, Magistrate Su, didn't you just want to test whether my Shinshu token is real or not? Now that the Shinshu token has been returned to your ghost city, if you want to test it, then test it to your heart's content. Su Fu blankly stands in place, his whole body stiff. And the faces of the magistrates and ghost envoys following behind Su Fu fluctuate between green and white, wishing they could immediately faint. Jun Muyen, unexpectedly isn't just a Shinshu. Or, she's still that godly alchemist who can refine the pre-celestial filter of barrier breaking. Su Fu only feels that everything before his eyes goes black, a roar goes off in his head, and all the blood in his body goes cold. What did he just do? He actually offended an alchemist who can refine the pre-celestial filter of barrier breaking. At this time, Magistrate Lu finally realizes that something unpleasant has happened here. He grumpily pulls over a person to ask about the cause and effect of the matter. When he hears that Su Fu, in order to curry favor with Shi Lanling, gave all the herbs that he originally promised to sell to Mu Yen to her. And he even severely offended Mu Yen. Magistrate Lu's blood rushes out of his mouth, and he almost faints. Su Fu! I'll kill you, you pig! He ruthlessly kicks Su Fu and the others away. Magistrate Lu rushes to Mu Yen, who is about to leave, and kneels down with a thud. He reaches out and grabs the hem of Mu Yan's skirt. Young Lady June, Sir Shin too, please don't hold a grudge against those bastards, don't bother with them. Our Wangjiang's ghost city really needs your special drafts, and that bottle of pre-celestial filter of barrier breaking, please be kind and give it to me. Otherwise, I won't be able to eat or drink, and I might even die in a few days. Mu Yen, she was also dumbfounded by the scene before her. He had never seen such a shameless person. If it was a young man, she would have sent him flying with a kick. However, the one who was tugging at her skirt and crying and acting like a spoiled child was an old man old enough to be her grandfather. Mayan takes a deep breath, then another deep breath. Even when Di Mingju is about to step forward and kick someone, she forcibly pulls him back. She had to respect her elders. Love the young. I can't be too hot-tempered. I can't be too hot-tempered. No matter what, Shi Lanling had never imagined that there would be such a turn of events. Just a moment ago, Jun Mayan was about to be driven out without any dignity, but suddenly, an old man ran over and respected her so much that he even treated her like a treasure and asked her to stay. Chapter 452. Otherwise, it would be impossible to heal her face in a quarter of an hour. But even if it's powerful, in the end, it's still just a draft. Could it be that these people are crazy? They don't pursue her, a fairy who can refine elixirs, and instead go after someone who can only refine drafts. What filter of barrier breaking, what godly drafts, could they be compared to the foundation strengthening pill that she's refining? Shi Lanling tightly clenches her teeth, and suddenly tilts her head to say a few words to Rui Zhu. Rui Zhu immediately clears her throat, and loudly says, "Tisk, isn't it just drafts? What's there to fight over?" Next month, the elixirs that Shi Xianzi has refined will be sold at a 30% discount in Wangjiang's ghost city. As expected, this sentence silenced the originally noisy atmosphere in the room. Rui Zhu arrogantly raises her chin, waiting for these people to recover from their shock, then jump for joy and be wild with joy. It must be known that Shi Lanling's elixirs have always been priceless in the ghost city. How many people want to buy them, but can't? The price has always been very high. A 30% discount, this is something that has never happened before. However, 1 breath goes by, 10 breaths, 100 breaths, the scene is still quiet, cold and indifferent. Magistrate Lu is flabbergasted and inexplicably sweeps his gaze over Shi Lanling and Rui Zhu. Soon after, he abruptly turns his head, and continues to pull Mayan's skirt as he cries, "Miss June, you can't leave this old man in the lurch. Our ghost city will give you all the herbs that you want, okay? Otherwise, if you feel that it's not enough, this old man will double it. You can sign this contract. The other magistrates and ghost envoys of the ghost city are also looking at Mayan with fervent eyes. Although some people's eyes are filled with shame and depression, regretting that they had just stood on the wrong side. But when they think that if those special drafts could be sold in Wangjiang's ghost city, then they would certainly be able to get some benefits, and they immediately become fervent. Some people even bow deeply to Mayan, begging her to forgive them. Ruizhu never thought that after she thought that she had announced a big piece of news, there would be this kind of result. Her small face flushes red. She looks at Shi Lanling next to her. Even through the veil, she can see her malevolent and twisted face. What is the most embarrassing thing in life? It wasn't that what you said would be rebutted and humiliated by others. It was that you thought that you were the center of attention, but who knew that after you spoke, you would be treated like air, and no one would take you seriously. Even Su Fu looked as if his intestines had turned green at this moment. If he could go back in time, he would definitely make a completely different choice. Shi Lanling's hands hung by her side, tightly clenched into fists. His pair of eyes have already turned crimson, firmly glaring at Mayan in the middle of the crowd. This slut, this June Mayan, every time she's around, she'll make him lose face. She wanted her dead. He had to destroy her reputation and make her die a tragic death. Shi Lanling couldn't stay in this place any longer and was about to leave with large strides. But the doorway is blocked by Mayan's people. When Shi Lanling squeezed out, the scarf on her face was inevitably hooked by someone. The veil fell off, revealing a face full of white spots. Ah, what's that? How could it be so scary? Like vitiligo. Chapter 453. It's no wonder that Miss June's husband just said that she's an ugly freak. Looking at it this way, she really is an ugly freak. Shi Lanling used her hands to cover her face tightly, but the chattering sounds of discussion still entered her ears incessantly. Finally, she can't bear it anymore and lets out a shrill scream. She rushes out like a madwoman. Looking at her departing figure, Mayan can't help but curve her lips. The expression on her face is one of schadenfreude. TSK. Didn't Shi Lanling say that removing the white jade purple frost is just a matter of minutes? How come it's been so long? Not only was it not removed, but it also made the poison float to the surface. However, that face full of white spots really makes people happy. Who asked her to want to harm her baby back then? Miss June. She suddenly hears the voice of a middle-aged woman. Mayan raises her head and meets Magistrate Chen's cramped eyes. Miss June, very, very sorry, our ghost city has wronged you. No, but our Wangjiang's ghost city really needs the drafts that you refine. Can we ask you to be magnanimous and forgive us this time? We promise that we will properly rectify the ghost city, there won't be a next time. Hearing that, Magistrate Lu jerks his head up, his watery eyes glaring at Mayan. He nods desperately. Yes, all those who offended Miss June, our ghost city will definitely punish them severely. Miss June, please sell the drafts to us. Saying that, he fiercely glares at Su Fu. Su Fu's fat body trembles a bit. At this moment, he really wants to find a hole to crawl into. But there's a faint unwillingness and resentment bubbling up in his eyes. Mayan's gaze softens a bit as she looks at the middle-aged woman. This Magistrate Chen, as well as the people with her, they were all protecting her when there was such a great disparity between the two sides just now. She can't not accept this kindness. It's not impossible to consign the special drafts to Wangjiang's ghost city. She slowly says. As soon as she says that, everyone's eyes in the room brighten and they stare at her. But they listen to Mayan continue, but the originally scheduled 3 bottles of pre-celestial filter of barrier breaking will be reduced to 1. The other drafts will also be reduced accordingly. Moreover, all drafts must not pass through Su Fu's hands. In the future, no matter if it's drafts or elixirs that I refine, they must not pass through Su Fu's hands. Do you have any objections to this? No, no. It's all up to Miss June. Although Magistrate Liu was heartbroken that the 3 bottles of innate filter of barrier breaking had been reduced to 1 bottle, he felt that the present result was already very good. As for Su Fu, even if Mayan doesn't say anything, he will inevitably be punished. In the future, the sale of drafts will naturally not go through his hands. The other people who stand on Su Fu's side hear that they won't be punished, and won't be excluded from buying and selling special drafts, and they immediately sigh in relief. Magistrate Liu didn't hesitate to give up the profits. Whether it's the contract for the sale of drafts or the herbs to be given to Mayan, they're all quickly finalized. After signing the contract, Mayan uses the storage ring that Di Mingju gave her to store the herbs. Only then does she reveal a satisfied smile. I'll have someone come to collect the rest of the herbs in a few days. Yes, yes, yes. Miss June, you can rest assured that we will definitely prepare the things you want. Don't worry. But since we've already signed the contract, can that innate filter of barrier breaking? Chapter 454. Mayan laughs in spite of herself. She signals to Feng Haitang, and she immediately gives the bottle of pre-celestial filter of barrier breaking to Magistrate Liu. After the old man received the porcelain bottle, his eyes wished that they could shoot out flames. He stuffed it into his pocket as if it was a treasure, putting it away from the covetous gazes of others. However, Mu Yan looked at the middle-aged woman. With a flip of her wrist, a porcelain bottle that was exactly the same as the one that the old man had snatched away just now appeared in her palm. Mu Yan handed the things to the middle-aged woman. For you. The atmosphere instantly became stiff and stagnant. The middle-aged woman's eyes widened and her jaw dropped. She couldn't react for a long time. For me. This, could it be? Looking at the appearance of the porcelain bottle, it was exactly the same as the one Magistrate Liu had taken away. As you expected, this is the innate filter of barrier breaking. Mu Yan said indifferently, I've noticed that your cultivation has been stagnant at the early pre-celestial level for a long time. Take this bottle of pre-celestial filter of barrier breaking, and it should be able to help you advance to the middle pre-celestial level. As he spoke, he grabbed the middle-aged woman's hand and placed the porcelain bottle in her palm. The middle-aged woman's hand trembled as she caught the porcelain bottle. She could not believe what she had just heard and seen. This is the innate filter of barrier breaking. You actually want to give it to me? The price of an ordinary filter of barrier breaking in the Ghost City has already reached 10 million gold coins. Then what about the innate filter of barrier breaking? How much would it cost? But, such a treasure, this Miss June actually gave it to him. Mu Yan smiles faintly, just take it as thanks for standing up for me. As she spoke, she turned to look at the infernal judge and emissary of hell who had stood in front of her with the middle-aged woman. These people were stared at by her sparkling eyes. One by one, they stood at attention. Gulp, gulp. They couldn't help but swallow their saliva. Mayan raises her hand, and a row of porcelain bottles is placed on the table. These drafts are called Blood Lotus Liquid. Although its efficacy can't compare to the pre-celestial filter of barrier breaking, it can let people immediately break through bottlenecks. However, it can improve a person's root bone and qi, allowing a person's physique to get the greatest improvement in a short period of time. I see that you haven't reached the bottleneck yet. Take this bottle of draft, and when you encounter a bottleneck in the future, it will be a lot easier to break through. Ever since the Tian Mo Qin had been upgraded, the effectiveness of the spring snow had also been upgraded. The drafts refined were a lot more powerful than before, which gave birth to the upgraded version of the filter of barrier breaking, the pre-celestial filter of barrier breaking. And this, Blood Lotus liquid, is a new draft that can only be successfully refined after the spring snow skill is upgraded. In terms of medicinal efficacy, it was inferior to the innate filter of barrier breaking. But in terms of steady progress, it was more useful than the innate filter of barrier breaking. After putting down a row of porcelain bottles, Mu Yan saw that the group of people were all looking at him foolishly, even their eyes had lost focus. She couldn't help but urge, "You don't want these drafts. I want even more." The innate filter of barrier breaking. She didn't finish her sentence. Like a gust of wind, those people rushed to the table and snatched away the porcelain bottle that belonged to them. That's right, he snatched it away. His speed was so fast that one could see the afterimage of his hand. Then, before anyone could react, he quickly hid it in his pocket like the old man. Many thanks for Miss June's kindness. Under the blazing and jealous gazes of others who want to kill them and seize their treasures, they bowed deeply towards Mayan, their eyes glistening with tears. Chapter 455. At this time, they all looked at the middle-aged woman with gratitude. If it weren't for her being the first to stand up and defend Shintu, they wouldn't have the guts to offend Shirshinzi. In this way, he naturally wouldn't be able to obtain such great benefits. Even though this Blood Lotus liquid hasn't been sold in the Ghost City yet, just by listening to the effects of a special grade draft, he knows that it's bound to be sold for a sky-high price, so much so that he can't buy it even if he has the money. Now that they had gotten a bottle for free, how could they not be ecstatic? In contrast to these people, the people who stood on Su Fu's side were truly regretting their actions so much that their intestines had turned green. Just a moment ago, they were still rejoicing that they had escaped punishment. But now, he felt as if he had lost the entire world's treasure. Everyone's gazes pierced towards Su Fu like knives, and they wished for nothing more than to tear him into pieces. If it wasn't for this guy, how could they have watched as someone else got the treasure while they had nothing at all? Ah! Pre-celestial filter of barrier breaking. Blood Lotus liquid. They really wanted it. Magistrate Lu also has an aggrieved look on his face. How good would it be if these drafts could be given to him? Even if he didn't eat it, he would be overjoyed to study it. He thickens his skin and wants to ask Mayan for more, but when he meets the girl's faint eyes, he can't help but wither. Mayan takes a step closer to him and slowly says, "If I, June Mayan, find out that someone has forcefully snatched the things that I, June Mayan, give away, your Ghost City, you know the consequences." Hearing this, the people who had originally planned to forcefully buy it from those ghost messengers and judges with low cultivation couldn't help but shiver. He didn't dare to act rashly again. Magistrate Lu smiled apologetically, don't worry, with this old man watching, if anyone dares to shamelessly rob, I will definitely skin them alive." In this way, the middle-aged woman's worries disappeared. On the other hand, the others were even more resentful towards Su Fu. Su Fu received the resentful gazes of the crowd, then looked at the middle-aged woman and the others who were beaming with joy. His fat, oily hands clenched into fists. Then, he raised his head and looked in the direction where Mu Yan and the others had left. His eyes were filled with resentment and hatred. Ever since she plundered Jin Wangfu, Mayan's purse, which had originally become thinner and thinner due to the raising ink camp in the Tianji unit, has now become incomparably full. Therefore, after arriving at Jingqing Country's Wangjiang City, she didn't stay in a restaurant. Instead, he directly asked Ru Yan to buy a secluded but spacious and comfortable courtyard. After Mayan leaves, this place will become another base for the Tianji battalion. This time, he followed Mayan to Wangjiang City. In addition to Yan Haotian, Feng Haitang, Ru Yan, and the others, there was also Qin Qingfeng and Fang Jingya. Over at Tianyuan City, the ink camp, led by Shinjinglin and Changyu, is stationed there. These days, under Ru Yan's training, Fang Jingya has been completely reborn. When she stood quietly at the side, people could completely ignore her existence. But when she curled her lips into a smile, she could make people feel like they were bathing in the spring breeze and completely let down their guard around her. She didn't have the slightest bit of seductiveness, but she could make men take pity on her and women get close to her. This is almost a spy at its best. Even Ru Yan also praised Fang Jingya's exceptional aptitude as a spy. As for bringing Chen Qingfeng, it's because his level of alchemy has reached a plateau recently. Even his cultivation has stagnated. Chapter 456. In fact, Chen Qingfeng's current level of alchemy is already quite outstanding. The special drafts that Mu Yan trades with the Ghost City are actually only a few. The other drafts sold to the Ghost City are all refined by Chen Qingfeng. The drafts that Chen Qingfeng refines are not as heaven-defying as Mu Yan's. But compared to ordinary drafts, the effects of his drafts are not a little bit stronger. Plus, the price is within the acceptable range for most practitioners, so they are very popular in the Ghost City. Miss, I'm really too stupid. He hangs his head and listlessly says, "You've already taught me so many times how to refine the filter of barrier breaking, but I still can't succeed. You've taught me for so long, but I haven't even learned the basics of you." Ru Yan sneers, "Why don't you take a look? Whose skin and fur is that?" To be able to learn the basics of the Mrs. Skill, other alchemists would go crazy from jealousy. Everyone roars with laughter at these words. Chen Qingfeng's unshaven face also shows a simple and honest smile. After they've laughed, Mu Yan listens to Ru Yan and Yan Haogen's work report. She says in a low voice, "For the next 3 days, I will go into seclusion. If there's anything that I can't handle, you can find." Before she can finish, Ru Yan smiles and says, "Rest assured, Mississippi. We know that if there's something we can't handle, we can look for the son-in-law. The son-in-law is so powerful, there's nothing he can't solve." Mu Yan grits her teeth, "Who are you calling son-in-law?" Ru Yan blinks, suddenly realizing, oh, that's right, if it's not son-in-law, then it's the future son-in-law. But this subordinate thinks that the future son-in-law is very eager to become a regular employee. That's natural. To be able to marry the Miss with our Mrs. character and appearance, the son-in-law must have cultivated 3 lifetimes of good fortune. However, if the future son-in-law wants to marry the Miss, he still has to go through the little Gongzi. The little master already calls the son-in-law daddy. It's obvious that he has already acknowledged it. Mu Yan presses the throbbing veins on her forehead, and snappily says, "Shut up, I have nothing to do with that guy." Unfortunately, after she's finished, his subordinates all had smiles that said, "You don't need to say anything, we all understand, you're just shy." She suddenly felt extremely powerless and couldn't stop the burning sensation on her cheeks. "By the way, miss, is your seclusion this time to try alchemy?" Ru Yan suddenly asked. Everyone's eyes can't help but focus on Mayan, wanting to say something but hesitating. "Miss, in fact, the drafts that you've refined have already far surpassed the effectiveness and value of today's elixirs. There's no need to force yourself to refine pills because of that hateful Shirlonling." "That's right, Mississippi. What Jianfeng? What Shirlonling? So what if they're called alchemy grandmasters? The value of their elixirs simply can't compare to the special drafts that you refine." Even Feng Haitang, who had always been quiet and calm, spoke hesitantly. "Miss, this subordinate has seen it in an ancient book of the Feng clan. In fact, in the Yenwu continent, no one has ever succeeded in alchemy. The pills that we can see now are actually only half-finished products. Chapter 457. Ru Yan repeatedly said, "This subordinate has also heard of it. There are also many people in our ghost city who have tried to refine pills, but all of them have failed. Even their meridians and chi have been damaged because of the backlash from the Dan fire. Miss, there is no need for you to take such a risk." They still remembered. Back then in Xia and Mayan's alchemy caused a big explosion. It practically blew up the entire courtyard of Junji drugstore. At that time, Mu Yan and Xiao Bao were lucky, so they weren't injured. But what if he was really injured? What's more, they really feel that the special drafts that Mayan refines are much more powerful than those pesky elixirs. Haven't you seen those people in the ghost city? When they hear about the pre-celestial filter of barrier breaking, they don't even care about Shirlanling. He directly trampled on that so-called Shirshianzi's face to the core of the earth. As soon as Ru Yan thought of that scene, she felt incomparably carefree. Mu Yan's gaze sweeps over everyone present, unhurriedly saying, "Do all of you think that I can't refine an elixir?" Without waiting for anyone to speak, she stood up. Her sleeves fluttered lightly, and her smile was seductive and languid. "Since all of you think that I can't do it, then I have to succeed no matter what." Then, under the shocked gazes of the crowd, he turned around and left. Everyone looked at each other and were unable to recover from their shock for a moment. "Miss is so obsessed with alchemy. Are you jealous?" Yes, definitely. After all, that Shirlanling keeps saying that she can refine pills and can help the son-in-law. Her face is too ugly. But that's alchemy. Without the pill condensation secret method, it's impossible to succeed, right? Yeah. In the Yenwu continent, no one has ever succeeded without using the secret method of core condensation. Yen Haotian, who had been silent all this while, lowered his eyes slightly. He was definitely the one who had been by Mayan's side the longest. Therefore, no one knew better than him how many miracles this delicate and beautiful young lady had created. Would a miracle really not happen this time? Mu Yan returns to her room. As soon as she opens the door, she sees Di Mingju sitting on the edge of the bed, lazily flipping through the pages of a book in his hand. Xiao Bao obediently slept next to him on the bed. Her delicate little face was serene and peaceful, completely different from the past when she would cry silently when he wasn't by her side. After seeing this scene, Mu Yan's heart became incomparably soft. Such a peaceful life, such a stable scene in the world, even gave birth to a greedy desire to continue like this forever. Suddenly, her gaze swept across the book and she saw the cover page. Her eyebrows twitched. The book was taken out from her space again. But how did this man manage to take it out of her Tian Mo Chin space? Or rather, how did this man know that she had such a space? What if they knew about the existence of the space, the secret of the Tian Mo Chin and the Shin musicians? Did he find out as well? Bailey Yinlu once said that the Shin musicians are an existence that the three realms can't wait to eliminate. If Di Mingju knew of her identity as a descendant of the Shin musicians, would he also want to get rid of her? However, Mu Yan immediately denied her own answer. Because from Bailey Liuin's notes, Mu Yan knows that portable spaces are everywhere in the Shushin continent. But Tian Mo Chin has the secret of space, even in the god musicians, only a few people know about it. Chapter 458. Seeing that the girl seems to have gone silly after entering the door, she blankly stands in the doorway, refusing to come over. Jun Shang, who has been concave all this time, finally couldn't bear it anymore. He lifts his eyes and says, "Come here." The man's voice is low and husky, with a magnetism that can make people's ears pregnant. Mayan's heart is like a zither string, lightly plucked by someone, numb and itchy. Her feet uncontrollably walk towards the man. When she's less than half a meter away from Di Mingju, her wrist is suddenly grabbed, and she's pulled in her dreams. Her whole body falls into a wide and warm embrace. The man's unique scent hits her in the face. Mayan feels that she's really bewitched just now. How can she just obediently walk into a trap when he says to come over? Let go. Before she could finish speaking, her little mouth is already blocked. Her body that wants to escape is firmly imprisoned. A big hand firmly clasps her slender waist, and the other hand presses the back of her head. With a deep kiss, his slender fingers brushed against her hair bun. Long hair falls down, and the 5 fingers pass through the silky hair like a waterfall, gently caressing the back of her neck. With infinite ambiguity and lingering. After a long time, Mayan is released, gasping for breath. She fiercely glares at the man who's getting more and more shameless, who allowed you to move your hands and feet. The man's deep voice reaches her ears. Ben Jun didn't move his hands and feet, Ben Jun moved his mouth. You. Can he be even more shameless? Before she could finish speaking, the man once again lowers his head, taking her already slightly swollen lips into his mouth. Ravaging and sucking, he lets go after a long time. What's more, Ben Jun moved his mouth so that you wouldn't wake up our son. Mayan subconsciously looks at her son, who has turned over because of the movement. She immediately holds her breath and stops moving. Soon after, she feels the hand on her waist slowly kneading it. The body that was originally in Di Mingju's embrace is also held tighter. So tight that she can feel the man's fiery chest through the thin clothes, and the slight undulation of his muscles. Her whole body stiffens, and she's about to struggle. But the man is sucking on her small, snow-white earlobe. A low and unbelievably hoarse voice that carried a dense lust rubbed against her eardrums. Don't move. Otherwise, what if you wake Xiaobao up? Di Mingju. Mayan glares at him through gritted teeth. However, she was met with the man's doting, affectionate, and dark eyes that were as deep as the ocean. It's getting late. It's been a tiring day. Isn't Madam going to rest? The man's slender fingers stroked the knot of her belt and slowly undid it. Mu Yan's heart was flustered. She had a nagging feeling that if she didn't stop it, something would happen tonight. In particular, Di Mingju's breath is slowly becoming scalding hot, scorching hot. Their bodies were pressed against each other, and she could clearly feel the man's hostility. Then, the next moment, Di Mingju suddenly feels empty in his arms. There was only a belt left in his hand. The warm and fragrant body had already disappeared without a trace. His eyes, which had been stained with lust, slowly lost its luster. Then he narrowed his eyes dangerously. His hand that had just touched the young girl's skin felt as if it was still warm and delicate. Just thinking about it, the blood in his whole body couldn't help but boil. It's a pity that this little woman still slipped away. Di Mingju naturally knew that Mayan had entered the space. Chapter 459. But in the end, he still restrained himself. Even if he crazily longs for Mayan. However, he wants to obtain Jun Mayan's whole body and heart. His wife, his daughter, must be spoiled, loved, and spoiled. Until one day, when she completely belonged to him, he swallowed her into his stomach. The light in Di Mingju's eyes becomes darker and darker, his voice hoarse like a soundless whisper. Jun Mayan, you are destined to be mine. In the space, Mayan heaves a sigh of relief after finally getting rid of Di Mingju. However, he could not help but feel his nerves tighten. He had the illusion that he was prey, that he was being targeted by some terrifying beast. He shook his head to get rid of this inexplicable feeling. Mu Yan's line of sight falls on the medicinal herbs she plundered from the ghost city. Shi Lanling's words seemed to echo in his ears. Don't tell me that you think that you can refine drafts, and then casually learn a few elixirs, and you'll be able to learn alchemy. You're too naive. If you really need elixirs, just tell me, I will definitely refine them for you personally. Mu Yen slowly narrows her eyes, looking very unhappy. Hee, isn't it just refining pills? She did not believe that she could not do it. The alchemy cauldron was propped up and the alchemy fire blazed. The herbs were sent into the furnace bit by bit. Under the urging of the profound qi, it began to melt. However, when she's condensing the pill, Mayan's movements become hesitant. Because the last time, she had failed here. Just as he was hesitating, a snow-white ball suddenly rolled towards his feet. The fat rabbit raised its head and stared excitedly at the pill furnace with its shiny mung bean eyes. His eyes were filled with greed and hunger. It was as if Mayan was cooking some rare and delicious treasure. Mu Yan is no stranger to the fat rabbit's behavior. Previously, when he used the spring snow skill to refine drafts, the fat rabbit would often come here to eat and drink, especially the innate filter of barrier breaking, which was almost its favorite. Often, without waiting for Mu Yan to react, he would grab it and drink several bottles. Thinking of the price of the pre-celestial filter of barrier breaking, Mu Yan can't wait to turn this fat rabbit into stir-fried rabbit meat. So this time, Mu Yan doesn't care about it. Instead, he intended to circulate his profound qi and urge the melted medicinal herbs to condense. However, just as she was about to inject the profound qi into the furnace, the fat rabbit bumped into him heavily. Howl! The fat rabbit lets out a howl that doesn't belong to a rabbit at all. The mung bean looks at Mayan with an expression that is very resentful of iron for not becoming steel. Idiot, you already have spiritual power, why are you still using qi to refine pills? Using profound qi to refine pills, how could it possibly succeed? Mayan stares blankly, then suddenly realizes, you're saying that I won't be able to condense a Dan by doing this. The fat rabbit nodded its fluffy white head. Indeed, she had tried to condense the pill with her profound qi before, but she was unable to succeed. But if she didn't use qi to condense the pill, and she didn't have the secret method of condensing the pill, how could she condense the pill? The fat rabbit was about to die of anxiety. This stupid woman clearly has a body full of treasures, but she actually didn't think of using her spiritual power. That was the moon spirit root, the moon spirit root. What else could be purer and more concentrated than the moon spiritual root? Mu Yan spreads out her slender snow-white hands, and the power within her body slowly revolves. Xian qi flowed in the sea of qi. But, no, what she wanted was not this power. She could feel that there was another force within her. When the Tian Mo Qin is being repaired. Chapter 460. This strange and unfamiliar power is stirring within her, even overturning the seas and rivers. That's spiritual power. In her previous life, she exhausted 30 years and suffered the thunder tribulation, only to glimpse a little bit of it. But in this life, on her lower abdomen, adjacent to her qi sea, a majestic power begins to surge. Then it spreads little by little, flowing into her meridians, and is sent to her palm. A gentle breeze blows through the tranquil space. The verdant grassland becomes even more exuberant in a split second. The fat rabbit's eyes widen in excitement, incessantly pawing the ground with its front paws. That's right, that's it. That's it. This is spiritual power, this is the power that the moon root should have. Her plain white palm gently presses on the scalding furnace. But there's not the slightest hint of a burning sensation. Mayan feels as if there's a powerful and pure energy lingering around her body. It makes her 5 senses become incomparably sharp. It also makes her body more powerful. The spiritual power flows through her palm into the Dan furnace. The herbs melting in the furnace seem to have received some kind of command, and they begin to fuse and condense at lightning speed. About half an hour later, a burst of medicinal fragrance fills the air, making people feel relaxed and happy. The Dan fire goes out. Mayan opens the Dan furnace, and sees 30 elixirs lying on top. This is a very ordinary second-grade Yangshan Dan. Its effect is only of little value, to clear the internal heat and reduce inflammation, and to refresh the mind. But elixirs are elixirs after all, and this kind of Yangshan Dan can't be bought in ordinary pharmacies. If they were to be auctioned in the Ghost City, one could be sold for tens of thousands of gold coins. According to the memories of Mayan's previous life, an alchemist can only refine 10 of these second-grade elixirs at a time. But she actually managed to refine 30 of them. Mayan picks up an elixir and carefully examines it, a contented smile hanging on the corner of her mouth. Now, let's see who still dares to say that she can't refine elixirs. She's in a very good mood, and she doesn't even mind the fat rabbit stealing a bite. She directly tosses 3 to it. As a result, a scene that makes her dumbfounded happens. The fat rabbit pushes the 3 elixirs with its front paws, and actually flings them far away. Mung Bean's eyes reveal a look of disgust. For a long time, Mayan hasn't recovered from the fat rabbit's disdain. But that wasn't right. The fat rabbit is eager to drink the draught that she refined. Why would he despise the more expensive pills? Ding-ling dong-long. She suddenly hears the sound of the Tian Mo Chin. Mayan turns her head to look, only to find that the fat rabbit has jumped onto the Tian Mo Chin at some point, and is constantly strumming the strings with its claws. An eager expression appeared on his face. In a split second, Mayan's mind is suddenly enlightened, as if a blessing has come to her mind. She understood. What the fat rabbit wants isn't ordinary drafts or elixirs. Instead, it's a draft or elixir refined using the skills of a Shin musician. What was the difference between the two? Just by looking at the drafts that Qin Qingfeng is able to refine after receiving her guidance, and the special drafts that she refines, the difference in price that he can sell at is very clear. At this time, Mayan also suddenly remembered. After the Tian Mo Chin has been repaired and the Shin musician skills have been upgraded, there is indeed a Shin musician skill related to alchemy that has been unlocked. Cloud birth and sea binding. Mayan slowly walks to the side of the fat rabbit, grabbing its collar and picking it up. She has a smile that isn't a smile. It's actually heavier again. Chapter 461. Alright, since you've reminded me again and again, I'll let you have a taste of the elixirs refined using clouds born forming seas. Late at night, the entire courtyard is quiet. Xiao Bao is alone on the bed, sleeping very soundly. But suddenly, his little nose twitches, and he slowly opens his eyes, muttering, "So fragrant. What is it? How can it be so fragrant?" He gets up from the bed, but finds that there's no one in the room. Nyangqin and the lecher aren't here. But the source of the fragrance is clearly inside the room. Xiao Bao seems to have thought of something, and his figure disappears, arriving in the space. In a split second, a fragrance that's 1,000 times richer than before hits his senses. This fragrance is really too strong, and too tempting. So much so that Xiao Bao feels like his stomach is growling, and his blood seems to be boiling and burning with desire. Xiao Bao looks up, and sees a huge pill furnace on the lawn not too far away. The flames inside are raging. And that tempting fragrance is coming from the pill furnace. But what's strange is that there's no one beside the pill furnace to control the Dan fire, but the Dan fire is burning very vigorously. A melodious and sweet-sounding sound of a zither reaches his ears. Xiao Bao turns his head to look, and sees his beloved mother sitting in front of the Tian Mo Chin, slowly plucking the strings. As the strings move, the medicinal fragrance becomes more and more intense, and more tempting to the soul. The fat rabbit's mung bean eyes on the side are already suffused with red light. He greedily stares at the pill furnace, wishing he could immediately pounce on it. He doesn't even know that the little master he loves the most has come in. Enchanting. Xiao Bao shouts in a low voice, looking at Mu Yan with adoration in his eyes. Enchanting is really the most awesome. That ugly auntie even said that Enchanting can't do alchemy. But not only can Enchanting do alchemy, she can also refine the best elixirs in the world. Xiao Bao's nose twitches, and there's a trace of desire in his eyes. Even he really wants to eat it. The sound of the zither finally comes to an end, and the dan fire in the pill furnace also gradually extinguishes as the sound dissipates. Then, there's a loud bang. The lid of the pill furnace automatically flies off. Immediately after, a medicinal fragrance that's 100 times richer, more mellow, and more tempting than before hits the nose. Mayan stands up from the Tian Mo Chin, her complexion somewhat pale. Then, she felt her vision blur. Two shadows, one blue and one white, flew past her eyes like arrows leaving the bow. It landed on the pill furnace. Then, Mu Yan saw a scene that made her flabbergasted. She watched as her precious son, who had always been calm and composed, pulled all the pills from the pill furnace into his arms. He glared at the fat rabbit and said word by word in an ice-cold voice, "Mothers, Xiaobaos." On the other hand, the fat rabbit on the other side had a face full of resentment and pleading. It was restless, as if it wanted nothing more than to snatch one from Xiaobao's hands. Mu Yan immediately laughs in spite of herself. She had seen other people's children snatching things to protect their food. But her baby had never shown such a cute and childish side before. Mu Yan walked over, picked Xiaobao up, and kissed his soft and tender cheeks. "Baby, why are you awake?" Xiaobao immediately presents the pills to Mu Yan. "Enchanting, eat." He had always been gifted with intuition. Whether an item was precious or not, whether a weapon was powerful or not, was it? Chapter 462. However, if he eats it, it will make him stronger, and it will also make his mother stronger. And these 5 elixirs are very precious. Mu Yan takes the elixirs with a smile, but she doesn't eat them herself. Instead, she puts one in Xiaobao's mouth. "Baby, eat." These elixirs were originally refined by Enchanting. If baby likes them, Enchanting will refine more later and give them to you as jelly beans. Although using the cloud birth, forming the sea, skill to refine elixirs is really very tiring. She spent 4 hours and exhausted all the spiritual power in her body, only to refine these 5 elixirs. Moreover, after these 5 elixirs are successfully refined, she won't be able to use the cloud birth, forming the sea, skill for at least 3 days. Xiao Bao's big eyes flicker, his cheeks bulging, and he swallows the elixir. Then he reaches out to embrace Mu Yan's neck and gently kisses her on the cheek, his little face revealing a bashful expression. Enchanting is really good to him. Xiao Bao loves Enchanting the most. "Baby, Enchanting was able to successfully refine the elixirs this time. In fact, it's all thanks to the fat rabbit." Mu Yan gently strokes his hair, her voice is soft and her smile is sweet. "Baby, shouldn't you also thank the fat rabbit?" Xiao Bao thinks for a moment, then he struggles to jump down from Mu Yan's arms. Then he takes out 2 elixirs and brings them to the fat rabbit's mouth. "I'm sorry, Bunny." There's a guilty expression on his delicate little face. "These 2 are for you, can you forgive me?" The fat rabbit originally thought that the elixirs it yearned for even in its dreams were gone, and it was simply aggrieved into a ball. At this time, it hears its most beloved little master apologizing to it, and even directly giving it 2 elixirs. It immediately jumps 3 feet high in joy. Then it turns into a furry ball and rolls into Xiao Bao's arms. Its pink tongue licks Xiao Bao's little hand, making whimpering sounds like a spoiled child. The two little guys happily play together. It's as if the unpleasantness just now never happened. However, not long after swallowing the elixirs, the two little ones fall asleep in a daze. On the other hand, Xiao Bao and the fat rabbit's bodies emit a sparkling light, enveloping their whole bodies. Especially Xiao Bao, those fluorescent lights seem to have fused into his blood vessels and bones, washing them over and over. Moreover, the energy in the space is incompatible with the Yanwu continent. Originally, it could only be absorbed by Mu Yan, but now it's starting to enter the bodies of Xiao Bao and the fat rabbit along with the fluorescent light. Before, Mu Yan didn't know what this strange energy was. But now she knew. This was spiritual power. In the Yanwu continent, there is only one thing that can be found in the space of her Tian Imo Qin, spiritual power. Looking at this scene, the surprise in Mu Yan's heart was simply indescribable. She still remembered what Bailey Yinlu said at that time. There's no spiritual energy in the Yanwu continent, so Xiao Bao won't live past the age of 10 here. Moreover, even if it's less than 10 years, the longer Xiao Bao lives in the Yanwu continent, the more his innate spiritual veins will be damaged. But now, Xiao Bao can absorb spiritual power from the space. Does this mean that his body won't continue to deteriorate? Mu Yan was about to use her spiritual power to examine Xiao Bao's physical condition. Suddenly, a clamor came from outside the space. Miss, are you inside? Oh my God, what is this smell? Why is it so tempting? Miss, are you all right? Chapter 463. As soon as the door opens, a group of people enter in a single file. Just a moment ago, it could only be considered a rich medicinal fragrance, but now, it's almost hooking their intestines out. Miss, what is this smell? Are you refining elixirs? Seeing the Dan furnace in the room and the fragrance coming from it, everyone is dumbfounded. They had just been sleeping well, but they are suddenly awakened by the medicinal fragrance that keeps drilling into their nostrils. Extreme desire, and the internal force in their blood boiling, they can't help but climb up. As a result, when they arrive at the courtyard, they are stunned by the scene in front of them. They see countless birds landing on the open space in the courtyard, on the branches. There are also wild dogs and small animals that come out of nowhere, also crowding the open space, greedily sniffing the tempting medicinal fragrance in the air. Even these animals don't panic when they see people. Even when the Ink Camp people drive them away, they are reluctant to leave. With great difficulty, they clean up the courtyard, and Ru Yan and the others find the medicinal fragrance and find Mu Yan's room. Miss, could it be that you've already succeeded in refining elixirs? Ru Yan's voice trembles in disbelief. That fragrance just now, is it the medicinal fragrance that you emit when you're refining elixirs? Mu Yan flips her wrist, and 30 elixirs are casually thrown on the table. What do you think? Everyone's eyes suddenly widen, and they only feel that the whole world is a fantasy. Refined, successfully refined. It only took one night, and Miss can already refine elixirs. Moreover, it's 30 in one go. When did refining elixirs become so easy? Also, what was that strange fragrance just now? Would refining elixirs emit such a tempting fragrance? Pairs of eyes uniformly stare at Mu Yan, as if they're looking at a monster, an immortal. Although they already knew that the Miss is formidable, this is a bit too formidable. Mu Yan stretches, and carelessly says, "These are just worthless second-grade Yangshan pills, you can divide them as you please. In a few days, when the herbs from the Ghost City have been gathered, I will refine the most suitable elixirs for you." As long as she doesn't use the Shin musician's ocean-forming cloud skill to refine other elixirs, for her, it's simply a piece of cake. The door slammed shut. However, the people standing outside were still in a daze, holding the pills in their hands, unable to come back to their senses. In the past, they could casually drink draughts that other people yearn for even in their dreams. In the future, they would be able to eat medicinal pills that others yearn for even in their dreams. Why was this life so dreamy? Just as Yen Haotian was about to leave, he was suddenly grabbed by a pair of soft hands. His body stiffened. He wanted to retract his hand, but he heard Feng Haitong's gentle voice in his ear. Haotian, thank you for letting me live. Thank you for letting us meet the young miss and follow her. In this life, even if you are unwilling to forgive me or accept me, I, Feng Haitang, will have no regrets. Yen Haotian felt his heart tremble violently. Then, he struggled free from Feng Haitang's hand and left in a sorry state. Feng Haitang looked at his back and slowly smiled. But as she smiled, she couldn't help but tear up. 3 days later, news came from the ghost city that the rest of the herbs had arrived. Mei and Han Yi are about to go to the ghost city to get the herbs. Chapter 464. I'm not going. Xiao Bao struggled angrily. I made plans with my mother to go shopping. Di Mingju slightly narrows his eyes, his expression unkind. Little guy, don't push your luck. You've already forcibly occupied your mother for many days. Today, it was his turn to monopolize Yen Yen. No way. Mother likes to go shopping with Xiao Bao. Bastard, let me go. Han Yi smiles along, but he doesn't dare to let go of her. Little master, look, it's not bad for us to stroll around the ghost city. Before he could finish his words, a white shadow suddenly rushes out and grabs Han Yi. Han Yi is caught off guard, and his hand loosens. Xiao Bao immediately catches the rabbit that has fallen from the air and rushes towards Mu Yan's house. As he ran, he didn't forget to shout, Bun Bun, well done. Awoo. It loved Little Master's praise the most. Unfortunately, he hasn't even run 2 steps when Di Mingju grabs him by the collar. Xiao Bao glared at him. But he hears Di Mingju say unhurriedly, do you want your mother to give birth to a little sister to play with you? Little girl. Little Treasure was stunned, and he blinked his big eyes. A little sister who looks like her mother, she must be very, very cute. If Xiao Bao became an older brother, he would definitely give all the good food and fun things in the world to his little sister. He hesitantly looks at Di Mingju, and hesitantly nods. Di Mingju's grave and stern face reveals a faint smile. If you want Mimi, then be obedient and don't disturb me and your mother. This way, you can see your sister earlier, understand? He tosses the somewhat confused Xiao Bao and the fat rabbit to Han Yi, and turns around to leave. Han Yi holds the hand of the well-behaved little master, very much wanting to cover his face and lament. Jun Shang, does Miss June know that you're so shameless as to trick the little Gongzi? Ghost City. Han Yi is responsible for guarding the little master, as well as that very restless fat rabbit that wants to rush into the beast-fighting coliseum. Mei is responsible for getting the draft. However, an hour passed and Mei did not return. 2 hours passed, but Mei still hadn't returned. Han Yi starts to feel like he's sitting on pins and needles, constantly pacing back and forth in the room. What's going on? Little Shadow had already been gone for 2 hours. Why wasn't he back yet? Wasn't it just taking some medicinal herbs? How could it take so long? Did something happen to Little Shadow? Xiao Bao glanced at him and said indifferently, Big Sister Mei is stronger than you. But. Han Yi talks for a long time, but he can't go on. Mei was indeed stronger than him, but for some reason, he felt uneasy today. He had a feeling that something might happen to Little Shadow. "Little Master, wait here for a while, I'll go look for Ing Mei." "You? Will it be dangerous for you to be here alone?" Han Yi is very hesitant. He's worried about Ing Mei, but he's also worried about leaving Xiao Bao here by himself. Little Treasure's expression was calm, and his blue eyes carried a natural dignified aura that made others unconsciously trust him. "Of course I won't be in danger. The drafts and elixirs that Nyingqin gave me, Xiao Bao has them all with him. Ever since they were chased by the people of Jin Wangfu last time. Mu Yan prepared all kinds of drafts for Xiao Bao to save people and kill people. In addition, Xiao Bao's cultivation has advanced by leaps and bounds under Di Mingju's guidance. Even a Xiantian expert would not be able to do anything to him. In the worst-case scenario, he still has the fat rabbit in the Ghost City, adjacent to the beast-fighting Colosseum. Chapter 465. The one who should be worried is this somewhat stupid Uncle Han Yi in front of her. "The drafts and elixirs that Nyingqin refined, do you want to bring some?" Xiao Bao asks earnestly. Han Yi promptly shakes his head. "No need, those drugs are of no use to this subordinate." "Then Little Master, you stay here obediently. This subordinate will go look for Little Shadow." That day, when Mayan used the cloud birth and sea forming skill to refine an elixir, Di Mingju, Han Yi, and Ing Mei had to leave because of something, so they don't know what happened that night. Han Yi naturally prostrates himself in admiration towards Miss June's innate talent. But no matter how amazing his talent is, this is still the Yanwu continent after all. The drafts and elixirs that Miss June refines would be snatched to pieces on this continent. But Han Yi doesn't think that it will have any effect on him. So even though he's touched by the Little Master's concern, Han Yi still refuses. Xiao Bao frowns as he watches Han Ye's departing figure. He lowers his head and strokes the fat rabbit's fur. "Bun Bun, big sister Ing Mei and idiot Uncle Han Yi won't be in danger, right?" The fat rabbit's response was to bare its teeth, its eyes especially hungry. "I really want to eat meat." There were so many meaty meat right next to them. But he could smell it but not eat it. It was really very, very sad. After Han Yi leaves, his figure practically turns into a shadow, arriving at the Ghost City's herb storehouse in the blink of an eye. Little Shadow, are you here?" Han Yi immediately shouts anxiously as soon as they break into the medicinal herb storehouse. "I'm sorry, Gongzi, but the medicinal ingredient storehouse is an important place in the Ghost City, you can't trespass." Two black-clothed children step forward to stop him, but Han Yi pushes them away. "So it's Miss June's Gongzi Han Yi. I don't know what Gongzi wants to do by angrily barging into the medicinal ingredient storehouse. Could it be that he wants to cause trouble in the Ghost City like last time? Even if it's Sershan too, acting so recklessly, isn't that a bit too much?" Hearing the familiar and loathsome voice, Han Yi immediately turns his head. A chubby old face like the Maitreya Buddha immediately came into view. On this old face, a pair of eyes were squeezed by the fat to the point that they were almost invisible, but from time to time, they would reveal bursts of light. Who else could it be but Su Fu? Han Yi frowns. "How come it's you? Didn't I say that you are not allowed to touch anything that belongs to our young miss? Moreover, for someone like you to go back on your word and offend Shen too, shouldn't you be punished? Unexpectedly, you can still stand here in one piece. How does the Ghost City do things?" Hearing Han Ye's words, the fat on Su Fu's face fiercely jumps. His narrowed eyes were filled with resentment. But soon, he continued to smile. "Young Master Han must be joking, this old man offended Sershan too, so of course I received the punishment I deserved." Now, he had been demoted from the auction house to the medicinal herb warehouse as a guard. Is Sershan too still not satisfied? As soon as Han Yi sees him laughing, he frowns in disgust. Don't fucking talk nonsense with me. I'm asking you, there was a black-clothed youngster who came here to collect herbs. Where is he now? Did you hide him? Chapter 466. Impossible. Han Ye's voice almost blurts out. If Ying Mei had left long ago, how could she not have gone to the private room to look for him and Little Master? Even if Ying Mei could leave him alone, it was impossible for her to leave Little Master behind. You're lying. Han Ye's figure flashes, and he suddenly grabs Su Fu's collar, lifting him up high. Speak quickly, where is Ying Mei? What did you do to her? If you don't say it, don't blame me for being impolite. I really don't know. Young Master Ying Mei has really left. Su Fu cried out in fright. Maybe young Master Ying Mei found it interesting when he passed by the Colosseum, so he went in to take a look. Why don't you go to the Beast Fighting Colosseum to take a look? Han Yi suddenly grabs him and throws him to the ground. Su Fu let out a painful groan. Then, his chest was stomped hard, and the sound of bones breaking could be heard. I'm warning you, you better not play tricks with me. If something really happens to Ying Mei, I'll make you beg for death. Su Fu was in so much pain that his head was drenched in cold sweat. Tears and mucus flowed down his face. Young Master, spare me, spare me. If you don't believe me, this subordinate can take you to various places in the Ghost City to find it. The uneasiness in Han Ye's heart becomes thicker and thicker, deeper and deeper. Especially when he had suppressed Su Fu and searched every corner of the Ghost City, but he couldn't even find the shadow of Ying Mei. Young Master Han, I just told you, didn't I? Young Master's shadow charm had long since left. Maybe he has already gone home. Han Yi can no longer control the panic and ruthlessness in his heart. He clasped Su Fu's neck, tightening it bit by bit. I don't believe a word of your nonsense. Since you're not willing to tell the truth, there's no point in keeping you alive. Ka-la, the sound of throats being crushed could be heard. Su Fu sees the undisguised murderous intent and cruelty in Han Ye's eyes, and the fear in his heart finally surges. Don't kill me. I'll talk, cough 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 cough. Han Yi loosens his grip and ruthlessly kicks Su Fu's abdomen, his eyes indescribably gloomy and cold. Speak, where is Little Shadow? What did you do to him? No, it's not me, cough cough, it's... Before Su Fu could finish his words, his eyes abruptly widened, and a horrified expression appeared on his face. He then slowly lowered his head and looked at his abdomen. On his round abdomen, there was a gleaming sword blade piercing out. There was blood, yellow greasy fat, and intestines hanging out. It was incomparably disgusting. Su Fu turned his head stiffly and saw the two people standing behind him. His face was filled with unspeakable indignation and hatred. Black Ghost Envoy, White Ghost Envoy, I'm so loyal to the King of Hell. Why, bang. His fat body fell to the ground, completely dead. Trash, you can't even handle such a small matter. What qualifications do you have to stay in the Ghost City? Han Yi doesn't give Su Fu's corpse another look, but looks at two people not far away. One of them was dressed in white and the other in black. Their clothes were embroidered with ghost heads using silk threads of opposite colors. Han Yi recognizes that these two are the black and white ghost emissaries. Strictly speaking, the black and white ghost envoy is not a member of the Ghost City. Instead, he is the personal confidant of every Ghost City's King of Hell. Han Yi coldly looks at them. Did you take Ying Mei away? What do you want to do? Chapter 467. Are you talking about that handsome and unruly youngster? The one who took him away is our king of hell. The white ghost envoy sticks out his tongue and licks his lips. It's his honor to be taken away. Because our great king of hell has taken a fancy to him. Han Ye's pupils suddenly contract, a dense killing intent pervades his whole body. What, did you say? The black ghost envoy sneers, what are you making such a fuss about? It's his great honor to be favored by our king of hell. What's more, what's the use of being anxious? King of hell has already taken him away for half an hour. I'm afraid that what should be done has already been done. Ha ha ha, I'll kill you. Han Ye's figure flashes. He clearly doesn't have a sword in his hand, but he slashes down from the air. The black ghost envoy's complexion greatly changes, screaming and retreating. Both of them have pre-celestial cultivation, and their cultivation methods are of the same origin. Cooperating with each other, they can exert 4 to 5 times the power. Even a high-level pre-celestial can only obediently kneel in front of them. The two originally thought that dealing with Han Ye would be a simple matter. They didn't expect that after a few exchanges they feel the great fear of their lives being threatened. A quarter of an hour later. Han Ye has one hand on the black ghost envoy's neck, and the other holds the long sword against the white ghost envoy's heart. His eyes are as cold and severe as an Azura from hell. It's completely different from his usual mischievous appearance. Speak, where is Ing Mei? How did you do it to him? Based on his ability, how could that bullshit king of hell of yours control him? At this time, Han Ye has slowly calmed down. Even if Ghost City's king of hell's cultivation is certainly very high, who is Ing Mei? He's an immortal from the cultivation continent, an outstanding figure that people look up to in the polar domain. How could he be schemed against by a mere Yenwu continent's king of hell? Our king of hell is omnipotent. The black ghost envoy shouts, as long as our king of hell wants it, there's nothing we can't get. That's right, in the Yenwu continent, our Wangjiang city's king of hell, Xian Ji, is even more famous than the ghost emperor. Han Ye's movements suddenly stop, his face revealing a shocked expression. Xian Ji. That's right, it's our great king of hell Xian Ji. That shadow demon has fallen into the hands of our Yama king. It's impossible for him to escape unscathed. Ha ha ha, but isn't this also his good fortune? Who knows, he might already be infatuated with our king of hell. The veins on Han Ye's hand that is gripping the sword are bulging. Xian Ji. The king of hell of Wangjiang City was actually Xian Ji. Was it the Xian Ji he knew? If it was Xian Ji, and that little shadow fell into his hands, Han Ye's hands begin to tremble slightly, the fear and eagerness in his eyes almost overflows. When Ing Mei woke up, she felt that she had no strength left in her body. She wanted to circulate the spiritual energy in her body, but it was as if all the spiritual energy in her body had been sucked dry. She frowned and turned around to look around, only to discover that she was in an unfamiliar stone room. She was sure that she had never been here before. What was going on? She was obviously choosing the herbs that Miss June wanted. However, he suddenly felt dizzy and lost consciousness. But how could this be possible? It's reasonable to say that the drugs of the Yenwu continent shouldn't have any effect on her. Chapter 468. Just then, she hears the voices of a man and a woman. With the sound of footsteps, they're getting closer and closer to her. Ing Mei promptly closes her eyes. Soon after, she hears a familiar voice. It's just an insignificant servant by Jun Mai inside, and a man at that. It's really unexpected that he could make you, king of hell, muster such a large force. Now, it seems that this servant's appearance isn't that great. This voice, it's sure Lanling's. Could it be that the one who schemed against her was this woman? But how could this woman possibly poison her into a coma? Soon after, she hears a man's slightly effeminate voice. Sure Lanling, you're just an ugly freak, what qualifications do you have to judge Ingmei's appearance? Xianji, you. Alright, we're only in a cooperative relationship. I'll provide you with the prescription, and you refine the elixir for me. As for other matters, it's not up to you to manage. The room is quiet for a moment, filled with the sound of Shi Lanling's heavy breathing. After a long while, she grits her teeth and says, "Since you know that we're in a cooperative relationship, you should understand that I've already accomplished what you wanted me to do. You should understand that I've accomplished what you wanted me to do, but I haven't done what you promised me." Ah, it's just Junmayan's life. The man's voice is full of disdain. Rest assured, she's just an insignificant mortal. Ben Wang will hand her over to your hands sooner or later. You can humiliate her, you can hack her into pieces. Shi Lanling takes a deep breath. Also, get rid of Junmayan's little bastard for me as well. When the time comes, I want Junmayan to personally see me and her man kiss each other. I'll also chop that little bastard into minced meat, and feed it to her with my own hands. As long as Junmayan and that little bastard are gone, Di Mingju's gaze will definitely be on her. Then, Di Mingju's gaze will definitely fall on her. At that time, that godlike man will definitely be hers. Hee, a woman's heart is truly the most poisonous. The man lets out a sinister laugh. Soon after, Ingmei feels him sitting down by her bed. Soon after, a cold, sweaty hand touches her face. That kind of disgusting touch makes Ingmei almost unable to restrain herself from chopping off his hand. She heard the man's heavy breathing and sharp voice, only you are different. Hee, after so many years, you haven't changed at all. Shi Lanling hatefully said, "It was Junmayan, that slut, who humiliated me first. Of course, I have to retaliate 1,000-fold. Just tell me if you're willing to help me with this." "Don't worry." The man loosens the hand stroking the Ingmei's face, and turns to face Shi Lanling. "I said, as long as you get rid of the Ghost Lord for me, let me take over all the forces in the Ghost City. No matter what your conditions are, I can satisfy them. As for killing Junmayan, it's just a piece of cake. Now, you can go. I want to consummate my marriage with my Ingmei. Don't tell me you want to watch from the sidelines. Pervert. You actually want to be with a man." Shi Lanling spat in disgust, and her footsteps quickly faded away. The man also left the room. Ingmei opened her eyes and slowly gathered the power in her body. But in his heart, he was thinking, who is this person? Why does he know me? And how does he want to harm the miss? The spiritual power in her meridians has indeed been drained, but as she revolves her heart sutra, her strength comes back little by little. She can already try to sit up now. Chapter 469. Several maids come in and help Ingmei up from the bed. "What are you doing?" Ingmei shouts. However, these maids look like they've been sucked out of their souls. They don't have any consciousness, and their pupils have no focus. They just mechanically take off her clothes and untie the white cloth that binds her chest. They help her change into a red undergarment and a flowing translucent red gauze skirt. Her perfectly round and beautiful body curves are completely revealed, and her snow-white skin and alluring long legs are faintly discernible. Ingmei's beauty is undoubtedly revealed under this kind of clothing, but it makes her so angry and disgusted that she wants to kill someone. She wants to struggle, but these women's strength is so great that they don't even feel pain and can't hear any sound. Ingmei can only suppress the anger in her heart and slowly circulate her mental cultivation method, gathering strength. When they put a hairpin on her head, Ingmei suddenly stands up, pulls out the hairpin on her head, and stabs it into the chest of one of the maids. Then she musters all the strength in her body and rushes out. However, as soon as she rushes to the door, she is hugged by someone. A man's feminine voice rings in her ear, don't waste your energy, Ing Mei. My spirit-devouring powder is specially prepared for you. Ing Mei suddenly looks up and sees a feminine face that is neither male nor female. The man's facial features are exquisite and magnificent, but the corners of his eyes are high, and his lips are extremely thin, making him look mean and sinister. Disgusting. As he speaks, he sticks out his tongue and licks Ing Mei's face. Ing Mei is so disgusted that she almost vomits. She uses all the strength in her body to push him away. Her feet stagger a few steps, and she returns back to the room. Her sharp gaze fiercely stares at the man. Even if there is no spiritual power in her body, she gradually fills the air with a cold killing intent. This killing intent caused the seemingly unconscious maidservants in the room to instinctively shiver. Only that man's eyes shine brightly, and his whole person seems extremely excited. Her originally feminine voice even became shrill. It's this kind of gaze, this kind of temperament, that's why I can't forget you for so many years. No matter how many men and women I get, those people can't be compared to you at all. Ing Mei. Ing Mei. Ha 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 ha, you're finally in my hands now. Ing Mei was furious when she heard this. The way this disgusting man looked at her made her want to kill someone. However, before she could move, the tip of his nose once again caught a whiff of a faint musk. The last bit of strength left in her body was sucked away, and her body could no longer support itself. She stumbled and fell onto the bed. The man laughed heartily and walked towards Ing Mei step by step. I told you, I specially prepared the spirit-devouring powder for you. And on this Yanwu continent, there's no way to resist the medicinal power of the spirit-devouring powder. Ing Mei, just accept your fate. Ing Mei gritted her teeth, resisting the effects of the medicine. He looked at the man coldly. Who exactly are you? Why did you capture me? The man's expression stiffened, and then a violent rage and unwillingness surged on his face. You don't recognize me. Ing Mei, do you still not recognize who I am? Ing Mei frowned, his expression unchanged. In his heart, however, he kept wondering if he had seen this person before. Chapter 470. The man lets out a sigh, the twisted expression on his face slowly fades. Soon after, his eyes are once again tainted with passion. That's right, I was just a nameless pawn under your command at that time. You were aloof, brilliant, dazzling, and could even stay close to Jun Shang. Naturally, you wouldn't remember a lowly existence like me. Ing Mei's eyes slightly widen, revealing an incredulous expression. This man used to be her subordinate. Saying so, it seems like she has a vague impression. But she had too many people under her command at that time. How could she recognize each and every one of them? The man is still talking to himself, as if immersed in a distant memory. At that time, I was just a member of the Xian department under your jurisdiction. I'm afraid you didn't even know that there was a person named Xian Ji, right? During an inadvertent mission, I discovered your identity as a woman dressed as a man. Since then, I could never forget you. Ing Mei is startled, her hands clenching into fists. It turns out that her disguise as a man was discovered so early on. No wonder this man directly took off her corset when he caught her, and dressed her in women's clothing. She was really too careless before. She thought that if her companions didn't find out, then no one else would. Xian Ji's blurred voice continues, at that time, you were so dazzling, so powerful, and I could only look up to you. I could only crazily fantasize about you in the dark, to hold you in my arms, to wantonly kiss you. Ing Mei finally couldn't help but shout, shut up. She has never felt that someone disgusts her so much. You said that you were my subordinate. Why are you in the Yanwu continent? Hearing Ing Mei's question, Xian Ji's face distorts again, and his voice seems to be squeezed out from between his teeth. This is all Han Ye's fault. He grits his teeth and enunciates each word. One time, he discovered that I secretly hid your clothes. At that time, Xianji crazily desired Ingmei. But Ingmei was too strong, and her conduct was so cold and cruel. If he was discovered, he would certainly wish he were dead. Thus, Xianji could only steal Ingmei's inner clothes and hide them under the quilt. Borrowing the lingering fragrance of Ingmei's body, he vented his lewd fantasies every day. He didn't expect that such an action would be discovered by Han Yi. Soon after, his immortal bone is cruelly extracted, and he is directly kicked into this Yanwu continent that doesn't even have spiritual power. He remembers those days when he had just arrived at the Yanwu continent, those days when life was worse than death. Xianji's eyes are crimson, and he's gnashing his teeth in anger, as if he's itching to tear off Han Ye's flesh piece by piece. If it weren't for Han Yi, I would still be on the Shushan continent, enjoying the worship and longevity of mortals. Do you know how desperate and unwilling it is to be reduced from an immortal to a mortal with a lifespan of less than 100 years? However, what goes around comes around. Now, it's finally your turn. Ha 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 ha. As the Xian level speaks, he suddenly bursts into laughter. When I accidentally saw you and Han Yi in the ghost city that day, I simply couldn't believe my eyes. I didn't expect that Ingmei and Han Yi, who were able to see Jun Shang every day on that day, would actually be expelled from the Shushan continent, reduced to a mere mortal in the Yanwu continent. Ha ha ha. Chapter 471. As expected, my thoughts were correct. No one knows better than us what the biggest weakness of the people from the Shushan continent is. With just a little bit of spirit-devouring powder, you won't be able to transform your spiritual power into profound qi, and you won't be able to resist at all. You won't even be comparable to a mortal. Step by step, Xianji walked towards Ingmei. Using his ice-cold and slippery hands, he pinched Ingmei's face and looked at her obsessively. Lord Ingmei, you definitely do not know how beautiful you are right now. I have been thinking about this day for a long time. When I get you, I'll use the same method to get rid of Han Yi. At that time, we can live together in the Yanwu continent. This kind of life is something I've always dreamed of. Ingmei struggled with all her might, but she couldn't muster any strength at all. If you dare touch me, believe it or not, I will tear you to pieces one day. Hee hee. How could you bear to kill me after you've had your fill of love and pleasure? Xianji isn't afraid in the slightest. On the contrary, he becomes more and more brazen as he reaches into Ingmei's lapel. What's more, no matter how powerful you are in the Shushan continent, in the Yanwu continent, your cultivation has been dragged down to the same level as mine. I've been immersed in this place for many years. Whether it's means or influence, I'm far superior to you and Han Yi. If you want to kill me, I'm afraid you still can't do it. The man's hand felt like a slippery reptile wriggling on his skin. Ingmei was enraged. All of a sudden, he raised his hand and ruthlessly flung it towards Xianji's face. Unfortunately, under the effect of the spirit-devouring powder, her strength was almost completely gone. When that slap landed on Xianji's face, not only did it not hurt or itch, it instead made Xianji's eyes even more greedy and fiery. Xianji suddenly pounces forward, pushing Ingmei down on the bed. He reached out and tore her clothes. Ha ha ha, as expected of the decisive Lord Ingmei. Even in such a state, you still have such courage. But I like it. Ingmei, the more unyielding you are, the more beautiful you'll be when the drug takes effect and you're rolling under my body. You'll be indescribable. Ingmei's expression suddenly changed. Her eyes reddened and her body trembled slightly. Because she also discovered that along with the effects of the spirit-devouring powder taking effect, not only was her body powerless, but there was also a surge of heat rising from within. It made her yearn to be touched by a man. She yearned to vent her suppressed emotions. What did you do? Ha ha ha. It's just that when Sherlonling was refining the spirit-devouring powder, she added some interesting herbs into it. What? Lord Shadow Charm can't take it anymore. Don't worry, this subordinate will definitely serve you well. I will make sure that you will never be able to leave this subordinate ever again. There was a tearing sound. Ingmei's outer clothes were torn off. Her originally thin clothes were only left with a thin gauze. Her alluring snow-white skin and curves were faintly discernible. Xianji's eyes were crimson red, and his breathing was as rapid as a bull's. He stared at Ingmei's chest and swallowed his saliva. Then, he reached out with a trembling hand and touched her chest. Xianji. I, Ingmei, swear. The day I escape, I'll make sure you die without a burial ground. Ingmei's eyes were dyed red with hatred and humiliation. Chapter 472. However, all of her strength has been drained, and she can't even move her fingers, let alone bite her tongue to commit suicide. Her body even betrays reason and hatred, longing for a man's touch. When Xianji's hands tear off the gauze, the ear-piercing tearing sound finally makes Ingmei unable to bear the despair and humiliation. Tears slide down from the corners of her eyes. Seeing her tears, Xianji becomes even more excited, his whole body trembling with excitement. Previously, when I was dreaming, I longed for the appearance of the great Ingmei Darren under me, crying and begging. I used to hate Han Yi for removing my immortal bone and expelling me from the Shushan continent. Now, I want to thank him instead. Ha ha ha. Saying that, he clasps Ingmei's lower jaw, intoxicated as he bends over to kiss Ingmei's lips. It's just that Xianji still hasn't tasted the fragrance that he yearns for even in his dreams. Suddenly, he hears a tremendous roar. Immediately after, the entire basement shakes violently, dust and gravel rustling down from above. What's going on? Xianji suddenly stands up from the bed. Just as he's about to call someone in, he sees a flash of light before his eyes. Then a powerful force comes from in front of him, and his whole body flies out upside down, heavily hitting the wall. An intense pain comes from his internal organs, as if they're overturning rivers and seas. Xianji can't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. But just as he struggles to stand up, he's grabbed by the neck, then ruthlessly thrown to the ground. Xianji lets out a pained howl, but before he could resist, a foot steps on his chest, and his ribs make a shattering sound. The fragments of his ribs pierce his internal organs, making him almost wish he was dead. Soon after, a familiar face that he loathes day and night slowly appears in front of him. Han Yi. Xianji's lips tremble, and he spits out 2 words. Then he's ruthlessly slapped in the face. In the Shushan continent, I gave you a way out, but obviously, I was wrong. What are you? You actually dare to covet Ingmei. Speak, what did you do to Ingmei? If you dare to touch her, I'll peel off this layer of skin from your body. For the first time, Han Ye's usually adorably stupid and frivolous face doesn't have the slightest expression. The chilling killing intent emitted from his entire body caused Xianji's pupils to suddenly contract. His memories seemed to have returned to many, many years ago. In that distant Shushan continent, the pain and despair of having his immortal bones stripped away was the humiliation of being as low as a speck of dust when he faced Han Yi. That's right, what he feels towards Han Yi isn't hatred, but a bone-deep fear. He originally thought that Han Yi and Ingmei had been banished to the mundane world. When he faces Han Yi again, he'll definitely be able to hold his head high. But at this very moment, Han Yi is just standing in front of him, and he's so terrified that he completely forgets how to scheme against him. Even his body is trembling uncontrollably. Han Ye's eyes and voice are bone-chilling. Fine, if you don't want to tell me, then tell me, where do you want me to start peeling off your skin? How about the top of your head? Han Yi turns his wrist, and a dagger appears in his palm. The cold light of the blade slowly descended towards the top of Xian Ji's head. Han Yi. A low gasping voice comes from behind. Han Ye's movements stop, and he abruptly turns around, little shadow. Chapter 473. Little shadow, you're here. Han Yi calls out in pleasant surprise, no longer paying attention to Xian Ji. He pounces over, I didn't sense your spiritual power fluctuations, so I thought that this guy had hidden you. Little shadow, how are you? Not. Han Ye's voice is like a rapid waterfall that is suddenly cut off. The expression on his face is also completely frozen. His eyes are straight, unblinkingly staring at the girl who is struggling to get up from the bed, unable to move away. That's right, a girl. Even if Han Yi is a fool, he can still be sure that the person getting up from the bed is a woman. Long jet black hair, like a waterfall, draping over her snow-white shoulders. The clothes on her body are torn and tattered, and even the red doo-doo is hanging halfway down. The snow-white rabbit is undulating, and the pink dogwood is faintly discernible. Long, straight legs, softly hanging over the edge of the bed. Han Ye's stiff gaze slowly moves up along the smooth and slender calves. Then, with a swoosh, his mind goes blank. A thin stream of heat rushes up to his nose. Han Yi suddenly reaches out to cover his nose, his voice stuttering, little. Little shadow, you, how can you be a woman, you're a woman. Shut up. Ing Mei ruthlessly glares at him, hurry up and help me put on my clothes. It's just a pity that she doesn't know that right now, her cheeks are flushed, and her coquettish eyes glaring over, how alluring she is. Han Ye's entire person is in a trance. Almost at the same time, he walks over to her. Just as he's about to reach the edge of the bed, he trips over the bed under his feet, and his whole body falls forward. Woo! A soft, muffled groan, like pleasure and pain, reaches his ears. Han Yi is worried that he might have hurt Little Shadow. All of a sudden, he realized that his face seemed to have fallen into a soft and fragrant embrace. That kind of touch was something he had never felt before. Han Yi dazedly reaches out his hand, and he can't help but touch it. The smooth, soft, and elastic feeling makes his whole person go silly. This is, bastard. If you still dare to touch me, I'll kill you. Han Yi abruptly sits up, no, Little Shadow, believe me, I didn't mean it. Patter. A few drops of bright red liquid fall from Han Ye's nostrils onto Ing Mei's fair chest. And when he got up, his hand happened to be placed on that unspeakable position. Han. Knight. Do you want to die? Han Yi practically tumbles and crawls as he is kicked down from the bed. He quickly wiped away the blood from his nose, took out a set of clothes from his spatial ring, and helped Ing Mei put it on. Because Ing Mei didn't have any strength left in her body. Therefore, it's hard to avoid having to rely on Han Ye's help to dress. As it happens, Han Yi is clumsy. Right now, he's so flustered that his brain is full of water. Where are you touching, you bastard? Right. I'm sorry. I didn't do it on purpose. Han Yi has already exhausted all of his willpower to not touching Mei's smooth skin. However, in the process of putting on clothes, it was inevitable that they would touch each other. Ugh! The residual effects of the drug in her body making Mei let out a low, hoarse moan. That voice is so soft and charming that even a rock would be teased and scalded. Chapter 474. But Han Yi thinks that she's in pain, so he's so anxious that he forgets everything. He hugs her, his voice trembling, "Little shadow, why is your face so red? Why is your skin so hot? Don't scare me. Are you injured somewhere? Or did that bastard poison you? I'll go find the antidote for you right now." Ingmei's whole body is burning hot, limp and powerless. In her hazy state, she opens her eyes and sees the sweat on Han Ye's forehead, as well as his eyebrows that are so anxious that they're almost crying. She didn't know why, but her originally ice-cold heart was also slightly warm. This idiot. He was really worried about himself, so worried that he even lost the most basic judgment. Ingmei moved her lips and was about to speak. Suddenly, a feminine male voice rang out in the room, "Don't worry, nothing happened to Ingmei. She's just horny and wants me to fuck her hard." Han Yi suddenly turns around, only to discover that Xian Ji, who he had just beaten to the point of being on the verge of death, is now standing up in one piece. Han Yi isn't surprised by this. Their bodies are not as frail as the people of Yanwu continent, even if Xian Ji has already been stripped of his immortal bone. But ordinary injuries were fatal to mortals, but to Xian Ji, they were still very easy to heal. Facing Han Yi, Xian Ji's eyes burst forth with intense hatred. He laughs cruelly. "Han Yi Darren, seeing such a Ingmei, you must be very tempted and want it very much, right? Hee, I've already guessed it. Back then, the reason why you hated me so much, cruelly removed my immortal bone, and drove me to this barren Yanwu continent without any spiritual energy, wasn't because I violated the laws of the polar domain, but because you were jealous of me. Because you also like Ingmei, and you've long wanted to obtain this woman. Han Yi, your thoughts are as filthy as mine. What you covet is nothing more than Ingmei's body. What right do you have to punish me that year?" Han Yi coldly looks at him. "Death is at hand, yet you're still talking nonsense." "I'm talking nonsense." Xian Ji laughs heartily. "You dare to say that you don't want the woman in your arms? Do you dare to say that you don't want to press her under your body and make her yours? Han Yi, don't deceive yourself anymore. You say that I'm disgusting, but how much better are you than me?" Han Yi doesn't care about what Xian Ji says, but he cares whether or not Ingmei will misunderstand him and loathe him. He suddenly lowered his head and said anxiously, "Little shadow, I didn't, idiot." Ingmei growled, "Be careful." Spirit-devouring powder. She roared out the spirit-devouring powder with all the strength in her body. However, he was still a step too late. Han Ye's body sways, feeling the spiritual power within his body quickly dissipating and draining away. At the same time, he heard Xian Ji's loud laughter. "Ha ha ha, what Jun Shang's trusted aid, what divinity of the polar domain, on this Yanwu continent, they're nothing more than ants that I can casually step on. Han Yi, does the taste of spirit-devouring powder feel good?" Han Ye's body is on the verge of collapse, almost unable to support himself. He fiercely glares at Xian Ji, both his eyes red. "Xian Ji, do you know what you're doing? Do you know what will happen to you if Jun Shang comes to know that you have acted so recklessly and unscrupulously in the Yanwu continent? Han Yi Darren, don't scare me. I, Xian Ji, am not someone who can be scared." Chapter 475. The Ghost City of the Three Realms was founded by Jun Shang. Do you think that Jun Shang wouldn't know what you've done? Ha ha ha. Do you think I'm a fool? Who doesn't know that the Yanwu continent doesn't have any spiritual power? It doesn't have even the slightest bit of value. It has long been abandoned by the polar domain and Jun Shang. Gu Yu, that pitiful guy. Although he's said to be the representative of the polar domain, in fact, he's a waste that has long since been abandoned. The smile on Xian Ji's face was incomparably insolent. "Even if I kill the two of you, and take possession of Ingmei, to the polar domain, it would only be 3 less wastes. Do you really think that anyone would care? Before he finished speaking, he suddenly soared into the sky. He ruthlessly kicks Han Yi. With a bang, Han Yi flies out and heavily hits the bed. When he got up, blood trickled down the corner of his mouth. You want to divert my attention by talking and force out the poison of the spirit-devouring powder? Ha, Han Yi, do you think I'm an idiot? Don't waste your energy. Today, none of you will be able to escape from the palm of my hand. Step by step, Xianji walks towards the 2 people on the bed, and kicks Han Yi to the ground. She lifted her foot and stomped hard on his chest. His bones shattered. These 2 strikes are for you. How is it, Han Yi Darren, does it feel good? His ribs are broken, piercing his internal organs, but Han Yi doesn't even groan. His murderous gaze unwaveringly glared at Xianji. Xianji felt slightly scared in his heart under his gaze. Soon after, he flew into a rage out of humiliation, and ruthlessly stepped on his face, using the soles of his feet to grind it. Don't worry, I won't kill you right now. I want you to personally witness Ing Mei and I consummate our marriage. Ha 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 ha. Ing Mei, you must be burning with lust right now, and you can't wait to jump into my arms. Han Yi suddenly pounces over and hugs his thigh. The long sword in his hand stabbed towards his abdomen. Ah! Xianji screams, an ominous glint flashing in his eyes, you're courting death. With a flick of his wrist, a dagger appeared in his palm. The tip of the dagger shone with a green light and emitted a fishy smell. Ruthlessly stabbing Han Ye's spine. Han Yi. Ing Mei lets out a cry of alarm, tumbling down from the bed. She struggles to get to Han Ye's side, but her body doesn't listen to her at all. Xianji sinisterly looks at Han Yi, slowly saying, do you know what poison is on this dagger? It's called blood-sucking fang. You definitely haven't heard of it in the Shushan continent. Just a little bit of this poison can seep into a person's blood and destroy their nerves. From then on, you'll become a cripple. Not to mention cultivating, you won't even be able to stand. Of course, if it was you in the past, with spiritual power protecting your body, this kind of poison would definitely not be able to seep into your lungs and corrode your nerves. But now that you've been poisoned by the spirit-devouring powder, you're worse than an ordinary person. Han Yi, just quietly watch how I take Ing Mei for myself, and make her thoroughly my woman. As Xianji says this, he raises his foot and kicks Han Ye's face, wanting to kick him away. However, Han Yi doesn't budge from hugging his thigh. Xianji frowns, his face distorting for a moment. Then he raises the dagger, stabbing Han Ye's back again and again. With each stab, he raises his foot to kick Han Ye's face. Chapter 476. In just a moment, Han Ye's whole body is drenched in blood, unrecognizable. Xianji. Xianji. You beast. Ing Mei's hands are tightly clenched into fists. Even if she doesn't have any strength, her fingertips still puncture her palms, blood seeping out from the gaps of her fingers. I'm going to kill you. Kill you. Xianji, I'm going to make you beg for death. Xianji sneers, and finally kicks Han Yi away. He walks towards Ing Mei. If that's the case, when I get that white jade-like body of yours, I'm afraid that you won't be able to speak anymore. Awoo. 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 Xianji's hand is already reaching towards Ing Mei's body, but suddenly, an earth-shaking roar of a beast is heard. Who is it? Xianji abruptly stands up, turning to look. Then, he saw a shocking scene. He sees a pink and jade-carved child, holding a snow-white and round rabbit, slowly walking in. He's clearly just a 4 or 5-year-old boy. But seeing the bloody mess that fills the room, he doesn't have the slightest bit of fear or panic. Only when his gaze falls on Han Yi does he slightly frown, clicking his tongue. Idiot Uncle Han Yi, sure enough, he's being bullied. And he's being bullied so miserably. Who are you? Xian Ji roars in bewilderment. Suddenly, a light flashes through his mind. You're the son of that Enchantress Jun Mayan, that little bastard. Ing Mei's eyes widen, and she actually props up her powerless body a little. Little master, why are you here? Hurry and leave. Xiao Bao doesn't pay attention to them, and goes straight to Han Yi with the rabbit in his arms. With a flick of his wrist, a porcelain bottle appears in his small, fair palm. Xiao Bao pries open Han Yi's mouth, and pours the draft inside. Not long after, Han Yi groans, and slowly opens his eyes. Seeing Xiao Bao's delicate but ice-cold little face, Han Yi's pupils contract, suddenly realizing what's going on. Little master, why are you here? Hurry and leave. Go find your mother and June. Shut up. Xiao Bao interrupted him with a crisp and childish voice. You idiot, I told you to bring the medicine that Nyangqin refined, but you didn't. Han Yi opens his mouth, and then he's surprised to find that his body, which had just been poisoned by the blood-sucking fangs, and had lost all feeling, has unexpectedly returned to normal. However, the spiritual power that had been eroded by the spirit-devouring powder still hadn't returned. Xiao Bao also discovers this. He looks at Ing Mei, then looks at Han Yi, slightly wrinkling his brows. After muttering to himself, he pouted and said unwillingly, but little Bao only has 2 left. But in the end, he still takes out 2 pills, 1 for each person, and stuffs them into Ing Mei's and Han Yi's mouths. Han Yi dumbly swallows the elixir, but he still couldn't help but anxiously say, Little master, you should quickly leave. Don't worry about us, you're not his match. It's too late to leave now. A sinister and ruthless voice came from behind. Han Yi and Ing Mei's complexions change at the same time. Only Xiao Bao's expression remained cold and indifferent as he slowly turned his head. They don't know when, but Xian Ji has already arrived in front of them. He's holding a steel whip in his hand. The steel whip is covered with sharp barbs, scraping the ground. My good mood has been disturbed over and over again. I'm very unhappy right now. Chapter 477. This little guy's talent was indeed amazing. At this age, he had already reached the heaven rank. But in Xian Ji's eyes, he was still like an ant that could be strangled to death at any time. There's a path to heaven, but you refuse to take it. There's no door to hell, but you insist on coming in. Step by step, Xian Ji approached Xiao Bao. Sticking out his tongue, he licked his lips, and his eyes were filled with a perverted viciousness. Since you want to court death so much, then I'll help you. Tell me, do you want to have your intestines pierced by this mace, or do you want me to slice off your flesh piece by piece and feed it to the exotic beasts in the Beast Colosseum? Han Yi and Ing Mei didn't reveal any signs of panic or fear when they were suffering the pain and humiliation just now. But at this moment, he is so anxious that his expression changes greatly. Xian Ji, if you dare to touch the little master, Jun Shang will not let you off. Little master is the son that his lordship has acknowledged, and is the future monarch of the polar domain. If you dare to touch a single hair on his head, his lordship will definitely make you die without a burial ground. Xian Ji stared blankly at first when he heard this, then he couldn't help but laugh heartily. Polar domain's future monarch. Han Yi, can't you make up a story a little nicer? A little bastard from Yanwu continent, a mortal, would be the future Di Jun of the polar domain. Do you think I would believe this kind of nonsense? Xian Ji's devilish gaze fell on Xiaobao's body, and he let out a strange laugh. The more you guys protect this little bastard, the more I want to let you see his head being separated from his body, and his miserable appearance of turning into mud. Ha ha ha. As he spoke, the steel whip in his hand had already been raised high into the air, and it was swung down towards Little Bao's tender little face. Little Master! Ing Mei and Han Yi exclaim in unison. Xiao Bao calmly raised his hand and held the rabbit in front of him. Bunny, it's up to you. Howl. In response to him was a howl from Bunny. It was exactly the same as the beast's roar that had just interrupted Xian Ji's good deed. Xian Ji's movements paused for a moment, his eyes revealing a suspicious look. Then, he immediately sneered at the brute. Little bastard, do you think this is a game? A rabbit wants to deal with me. Xiao Bao looked at him expressionlessly. It was obviously a small stature, but the disdain in those eyes made Xian Ji's body slightly stiffen. In a trance, he seemed to see the once lofty and unreachable Jun Shang. Bunny, open your mouth. Xian Ji was still immersed in that dreadful yet familiar coercion, unable to come back to his senses. Suddenly, the fat rabbit that Xiao Bao had lifted up, slowly, lazily opened its mouth. There was even a hint of reluctance in Green Bean's eyes. Xian Ji stared blankly. He didn't understand. So what if the rabbit opened its mouth? Could it be that it could deal with him? In the next moment, the roars of countless beasts filled the entire room. 1, 2, 3, 10, 20, countless large exotic beasts were spat out from the fat rabbit's mouth one after another. Some of them smashed onto Xian Ji's body, some of them directly trampled him under their feet, and some of them even bit into the flesh on his body. The small house was instantly filled to the brim with countless giant beasts. It was accompanied by Xian Ji's mournful wailing, as well as the rising and falling roars of beasts. As for Xiao Bao, as soon as the fat rabbit finished spitting out the strange beast, he grabbed Ing Mei and Han Yi with each hand and fled outside the house. He left the two dumbstruck people behind. Xiao Bao patted the fat rabbit's head. Well done. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.